She is a police officer who bravely fights through darkness, but she is betrayed by a colleague during a mission, and unexpectedly finds herself transported to another world. Looking at the unfamiliar room before her, she doesn't understand why she's still alive. And when did her hair get this long? Most importantly, she is clearly much younger. And why is she wearing the clothes from when she modeled in high school? Before she can process this, a sleazy man says to her, "I picked you up from the mountains. If it weren't for me, you'd have been eaten by demon beasts. You should repay me properly." As a police officer, when Yin Moxiao faces this harassment, without hesitation, she punches him hard. This strike sends the sleazy man crashing to the ground. The force of the impact makes her realize this might not be a dream, but the urgent matter is to leave this place immediately. The moment she pushes open the door, what she sees shocks her even more. What is this place? There are dragons flying in the sky. All the buildings and people on the streets look medieval. As she stands there stunned by how real everything feels, Count Floyd has already caught up with her with his men. Following his orders, magical chains shoot toward Yin Moxiao at lightning speed. Before she can react, she's bound and unable to move. The man simply snaps his fingers, and she collapses to the ground. After hurling insults at her, Count Floyd decides to sell her to the slave arena. He wants to watch her be tortured to death with his own eyes. Inside the arena, the crowd roars with excitement, because everyone has bet on what seems like a sure win. First to enter is Lawrence, who has an undefeated record of 25 wins and 0 losses. Next to enter is Yin Moxiao, a police officer who lived 26 years, was shot in the head during a mission, and now she finds herself in a 16-year-old body in another world. Now she stands here in chains as a slave. As the referee announces the start of the duel, Lawrence charges at Yin Moxiao with a roar. Compared to his previous 25 opponents, he's confident he can knock down this seemingly fragile woman with one punch. But Yin Moxiao easily dodges his attack. Then she presses her back firmly against Lawrence and grabs his arm, throwing him forcefully through the air. This scene leaves everyone stunned. They can't believe a frail woman just took down such a strong man. As the crowd gasps in surprise, Lawrence slowly gets up to continue the fight. In the arena, the only way to win is to beat your opponent to death. Lawrence raises both fists, putting all his strength into a heavy attack on Yin Moxiao, but she easily evades it. At that moment, she notices cracks appearing in the iron chains. Without hesitation, she breaks free from these chains that treat lives as worthless, right in front of everyone. As they stand shocked once again, she leaps up and vaults onto the spectator stands, heading straight for Count Floyd, who serves under the second prince and threw her into this place. She lifts her foot and stomps hard on his face, then immediately turns and runs toward the exit. But there's no path ahead. She stands atop a building hundreds of feet high, with only a lone carriage below. But no matter who's inside, she has no choice but to take the risk. With a loud crash, she successfully lands in the carriage. The moment she looks up, she meets a pair of calm, emotionless eyes. The man watches this intruder with complete indifference. Neither says a word, simply observing each other in silence. At this moment, a group of people surrounds the carriage, wanting to capture Yin Moxiao, but they hesitate to rush in because of the man inside. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao notices how respectfully the arena people treat this man, so she pulls out a knife she's carrying and holds it to his neck, threatening him to send those people away. Despite having a knife at his throat, the man doesn't panic. He simply instructs his guard Coselle to do as she says. Only then does Yin Moxiao release him. The man then says he needs a pawn, a smart and strong pawn. Of course, Yin Moxiao can refuse, and he'll let her go as if nothing happened. With a snap of his fingers, the chains binding her quickly shatter. Though the man seems to give her a choice, she really only has one option, accept his offer. She can't use magical power, and once she leaves this carriage, they'll eventually capture her. Just then, Coselle returns and reports, "Your Highness, I've dealt with the people outside." Yin Moxiao wonders if she misheard. She can't believe the man before her is actually a prince. The next second, the man pulls her into his arms and announces to everyone present, "From today on, she is my woman." This statement shocks everyone. Yin Moxiao is also stunned. When the arena owner hurriedly responds, "Your Highness, from today she is not a slave. No one in this place has ever seen her." The third prince glances coldly at him. "As long as you understand." Then he leaves with Yin Moxiao. After a long time, when the carriage reaches the palace, night has fallen. Seeing His Highness return carrying a woman, the maids and guards all show expressions of disbelief. Yin Moxiao doesn't understand why he's carrying her so conspicuously in front of everyone. She's then led by 3 maids to bathe and change clothes. Immersed in the warm water, she gradually relaxes, though her mind keeps replaying everything that happened today. After bathing, she carefully asks the head maid Vermantha if she can be taken to a bedroom to rest, but she is told the third prince has been waiting for her in the bedroom, and she probably won't be resting tonight. After changing clothes, Yin Moxiao is led by Vermantha to the door of the third prince's bedroom. Behind her, Vermantha smiles as if she already knows what will happen tonight. But Yin Moxiao really doesn't want to go in. Before she can figure out how to escape, the bedroom door suddenly opens. An invisible force surges from inside, wrapping around her and pulling her in. She cries out in surprise, stumbling and tripping over her dress. falling to her knees by the bed. She immediately becomes angry, glaring at the third prince. "I can walk by myself." The third prince replies expressionlessly, "You made me wait a long time." Yin Moxiao gets even angrier, thinking, can't he understand what she's saying? She struggles to suppress her anger and asks him why he called her here at this hour. "I only agreed to be your pawn, not your wife." She absolutely cannot tolerate sleeping in the same bed with a man she doesn't love, no matter how handsome he is. The third prince sighs helplessly. "I won't do that to you. In this palace, only this room is safe. As long as I'm here." Yin Moxiao doesn't understand what he wants her to do, but the third prince says bluntly that he'll answer that question after she survives 1 week. Then he says he's tired and tells Yin Moxiao to sleep on the sofa. However, Yin Moxiao climbs straight onto the bed and says confidently, "You brought me back so conspicuously just to put on a show for others, right? Won't it be more convincing if the maids see me sleeping in your bed tomorrow morning?" Her move makes even the normally cold third prince show a surprised expression. In all his life, he's never met such an audacious woman. In her sleep, Yin Moxiao dreams of a man holding a weapon. For some reason, she's so frightened that tears won't stop flowing. Then the man attacks her. The force is so great that even the railing behind her breaks. In that instant, she feels as if she's back at the moment when she was pushed off a tall building during her mission. When she wakes up, she realizes it was just a nightmare, but it all felt too real, as if she'd actually experienced it. Even the pain was vivid. Just then, the maids enter the room with hot water and towels, informing her that the third prince left early to handle official business, and before leaving, he specially selected a cute dress for her. A young maid called Freya exclaims happily, "His Highness has finally moved on from the past." Her words make Yin Moxiao curious. Moved on from the past? What does that mean? Realizing that Freya has said too much, Vermantha immediately changes the subject and orders her to fetch the dress and matching jewelry. The topic ends there, and Yin Moxiao doesn't press further. After changing into the dress, looking at herself in a pink dress with twin tails, she barely recognizes the person in front of her. This is really too much. Though it's her younger body, this outfit makes her quite uncomfortable. Thinking back to when she was 16, she usually wore school uniforms, casual clothes, or sportswear. She never wore such a cute dress. This outfit seems deliberately designed to make things difficult for her. At this moment, Vermantha reminds her, "After breakfast, we need to go greet Miss Eloise. More accurately, she wants to see you, because Miss Eloise is His Highness's fiancée." Eloise is the youngest daughter of the current Tilio ducal family. Because of her family's great power, she acts arrogantly in the palace, and everyone must yield to her. Vermantha quickly adds that Miss Eloise is only the fiancée in name, and His Highness doesn't like her. Yin Moxiao thinks to herself, "It looks like I'm just a shield." Meanwhile, a young lady is throwing a tantrum. She is the youngest daughter of the Tilio family, Eloise. She doesn't understand what her fiancé sees in that woman. In this world, shorter names represent lower social status. Yin Moxiao, a 3-character name, represents a commoner. In Eloise's view, commoners have no right to stay in this magnificent palace. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao is led by Vermantha to meet Eloise. Eloise looks at the dress she's wearing and shows an expression of disbelief. At this moment, Yin Moxiao greets her very friendly. "Hello, Miss Eloise." As the daughter of a duke, Eloise's attitude is arrogant. She says coldly, "How dare you address me by name? You are just a mere commoner. Why don't you kneel when you see me?" Her maid Wendy immediately chimes in. "Please show your respect to Miss Eloise and apologize for your rude behavior just now." Though Yin Moxiao is unwilling, she doesn't want to cause trouble, so she mimics the gesture from TV dramas in her memory, bowing and saying, "I'm very sorry. Please forgive my rudeness." Seeing her bow and submit, Eloise doesn't intend to give her further trouble. However, her maid Wendy suddenly steps forward and slaps Yin Moxiao hard across the face. She shouts, "When a commoner begs a noble for forgiveness, they must kneel." This slap instantly takes Yin Moxiao back to when she experienced bullying in school. Indeed, when facing bullying, every choice to endure only encourages the bully's arrogance. Even in a different world, this holds true, so she decides not to endure anymore. She'll fight back. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kozel is reporting to the third prince about Yin Moxiao's background. "Your Highness, that woman's origins are unclear. Before becoming a slave, she was found by Count Floyd outside the city, and her name has 3 characters. Could she be from the kingdom of Hongyan?" Hearing this, the third prince is silent for a moment before saying, "Give her a family name." Kozel is very surprised, because this means from now on Yin Moxiao will be considered part of the royal family. For the third prince, he has no interest in knowing the past of Yin Moxiao. He only hopes she can last a while longer. After all, if she regrets it now, it would be troublesome for him to deal with. But he doesn't know that Yin Moxiao is now preparing to teach someone a lesson. As Wendy raises her hand for the second time, Yin Moxiao directly grabs her wrist, her eyes filled with uncontrollable anger. Then she flips the maid and pins her to the ground. This sudden counterattack shocks everyone present, as they didn't expect Yin Moxiao to be this formidable. Wendy then struggles free with force, and pulls out a hidden weapon from her sleeve. Without hesitation, she fires it at Yin Moxiao. Yin Moxiao nimbly dodges to the side. Looking back, she sees the thin needle embedded in the wall glowing with an eerie purple light. In the blink of an eye, the wall rapidly cracks, just as she wonders if this is magic again. Wendy pulls out a sword and swiftly thrusts it toward her. At the critical moment, a sharp beam of light pierces through her chest from behind. Crimson liquid splatters before them. Accompanied by Eloise's hysterical scream, the maid collapses to the ground. Then they look toward the person who launched the attack. The person has golden hair and deep blue eyes, wearing the royal crest. He is the second prince in the empire, Risel. He greets them with a smile, while ordering his subordinates, drag this rat away, and escort the frightened Miss Eloise back to her room to rest. As Eloise is about to leave, she can't help but glance at Yin Moxiao, only to find her still standing calmly in place, her eyes showing no fear, only composed anger. Isn't she afraid? After Eloise leaves, Risel immediately walks toward Yin Moxiao and reaches out to touch her hair. Beautiful lady, you're as delicate as a flower. You must have been frightened just now? But Yin Moxiao is unmoved. Thank you for your concern, but in my view she was a person, not a rat. Hearing this, Risel is taken aback. He slowly straightens up, putting on a polite smile again, says some more courteous words, and offers to escort her back personally. But Yin Moxiao directly refuses. After all, as the third prince's woman, she naturally needs to keep her distance from other men. After they leave, Risel immediately changes his attitude, a trace of mockery flashing in his eyes. My younger brother's taste in women has certainly changed. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao is also analyzing Risel's behavior. From his actions just now, she doesn't sense any goodwill. In this era that worships nobility, as someone born a commoner, perhaps in their eyes she's no different from that maid who died tragically. After pondering for a moment, she asks Ramantha beside her, the heir to the throne hasn't been decided yet, right? How many children does His Majesty have? 3. The first is the princess. She is gentle in nature, but weak and often ill, and by law she has no inheritance rights. The second is Prince Risel, whom you just met. He's charming and gentle. The third is our hero, His Highness. Yin Moxiao sighs inwardly. The struggle for royal power under this feudal system is indeed troublesome. As the third prince's woman, she's now been dragged into this, and there will likely be mortal danger ahead. It's time to have a talk with the third prince. When Kozel reports that Yin Moxiao requests an audience, the third prince directly refuses. But she said if you refuse to see her, she'll kick the door down. The usually composed third prince has never met such an audacious woman. Angered, he snaps the pen in his hand. As the door opens, Yin Moxiao walks in. Her initiative to seek out the third prince actually has another purpose. She desperately needs a weapon right now. The third prince doesn't understand why she's always thinking about weapons. Without a second thought, he refuses and prepares to continue handling official business. Seeing this, Yin Moxiao speaks bluntly. Your purpose in bringing me into the palace should be to help you seize the throne, right? Hearing this, the third prince pauses. He slowly looks up at the woman before him with interest. His Majesty currently has 2 sons, and I'm afraid your relationship isn't harmonious. Although His Majesty hasn't determined the heir yet, he should be more inclined toward the second Prince Risel. Kozel beside them is also surprised that she's only been here less than a day, yet has already discerned so many key points. Yin Moxiao continues, your original fiancée, Miss Eloise, comes from a family with strong influence, so it is difficult for you to control. Once married, you might instead be constrained by them, so you need a woman without any family power who obeys your commands. Moreover, this woman needs to secure the position of your fiancée and become the princess. After hearing her words, the third prince immediately launches an attack at Yin Moxiao, but she doesn't even blink, completely unafraid. Well, you're smart enough and not afraid of death. It seems you're qualified to wield weapons. Kozel, take her to the armory. Let her take whatever she wants. Just as they're about to leave, the third prince calls out to Yin Moxiao again, warning her not to wear this dress anymore. And he says very seriously, it doesn't suit you. Yin Moxiao is silently annoyed. Wasn't he the one who had her dressed like this? But this suits her fine, because now she can wear what she finds most comfortable. After all, she has no interest in dressing to please him. Soon after, at the training ground of the Night Order, the knights watch in surprise as a woman in a pink dress, who looks very delicate, arrives here. When they reach the armory in the training ground, Kozel introduces to her. Those people outside are the third prince's guards, belonging to the Night Order His Highness trusts most. Some are even of commoner origin. Usually guards around princes are selected from noble families, but the third prince doesn't care about origins, only about capability. Hearing this, Yin Moxiao is somewhat surprised. After all, in this era where class heredity still prevails, it's remarkable that the third prince has such foresight. Next, Yin Moxiao begins selecting suitable weapons. Kozel first introduces her to a dagger made of silver steel. It is small, convenient, and sharp, with priceless red gemstone embedded in it. Yin Moxiao then plays with it with one hand. The sharp blade spins and dances on her fingertips, whose feel is quite similar to the one she had before. In that case, she'll take it. The second is a sword made of black platinum, which can easily piece through the armor and looks elegant as well. But Yin Moxiao stares intently in another direction, unconsciously walking toward that item. Seeing this, Kozel explains, This was a gift given to His Highness by the Kingdom of Hongyan many years ago. A pair of Tang swords, though they've never been used. The red blades were mined from a crystal rock cave, so it looks crystal clear. This material has extremely high compatibility with magical power. It's a material that can be infused with a large amount of magical power, meaning people born without magical power can use it through this weapon. However, it's ultimately not one's own power. So it's best to have someone nearby who can provide a large amount of magical power at any time. Although there aren't many people who can provide this, all members of the knights here possess a large amount of magical power. This makes Yin Moxiao a bit conflicted, because the third prince only said she could take whatever she wanted. She doesn't know if that includes people, but shortly after, she follows Kozel to stand before the knights. Kozel announces loudly, "This is Miss Yin Moxiao. She is His Highness's lover. Now she needs a guard. Is anyone willing to take this position? This job sounds easy, without exposure to wind and sun. Unfortunately, no one is willing to take this position." At this moment, a man named Harker steps forward and says, "Our aspiration is to follow His Highness, to expand the Empire's territory. We all have grand ideals and ambitions. Protecting my lady is not suitable for us. You can select from other knight orders. There will surely be more suitable candidates." At this point, Kozel states that there's only one condition that can make the knights change who they follow: a duel, where the loser obeys the stronger. Muffled laughter immediately ripples through the training ground, but Yin Moxiao isn't provoked. Instead, she directly draws the long sword from Kozel's waist and places it against Harker's neck. This scene is so familiar. Yin Moxiao fearlessly announces she'll duel Harker one-on-one. However, fighting in this dress is clearly inconvenient, so she tells Kozel to take off his clothes and swap with her. Though Kozel is very reluctant, under her threat, he still exchanges clothes with her. One second, the knights are consoling him. The next second, they all look at the person ahead, their faces turning red with embarrassment, because Yin Moxiao is only wearing a knight's uniform, and below the hem, her long legs are fully visible. She stands holding the sword, looking at her opponent. Harker launches the first attack. Yin Moxiao also swiftly swings her long sword to meet it. With the harsh sound of clashing blades, Yin Moxiao successfully blocks this strike. But the strength of this 16-year-old body is still too weak. Just this one strike has made her wrist go numb. Next, Harker delivers a powerful overhead slash, trying to knock the sword from her hand and force her to surrender. But this also allows Yin Moxiao to find his opening. She takes a step back and grips her sword tightly, countering with a downward slash of her own. Harker nimbly dodges, and the sword strikes heavily on the hard ground. With a sharp crack, the sword breaks. She didn't expect the sword to be so fragile. Kozel, watching from the side, is on the verge of tears. He is heartbroken, because that sword was a gift from the third prince. Amid the gasps of the surrounding knights, Yin Moxiao drops the long sword, but a mysterious smile curves her lips. She brings out what she's best at, her fists. Though Harker is surprised, she wants to fight barehanded. He follows knight's etiquette and puts away his sword. What follows is a one-sided domination. Yin Moxiao, with her bare hands, beats the strongest warrior of the knights into retreat. Finally, Harker is knocked to the ground. Kozel witnesses this entire scene, his face full of disbelief. Harker lies on the ground for a moment before struggling to regain consciousness, his head still spinning. But he can't believe that he, as His Highness's most valued knight, lost to a woman today. Finally, following his oath, he kneels on one knee and bows his head to Yin Moxiao. "As a member of the Royal Knights, I will keep my promise. From now on, I pledge to follow and serve you unto death." Having unexpectedly gained a capable guard, Yin Moxiao can't help but smile slightly. But she doesn't know that. The third prince, upon learning this news, is furious, as Kozel tearfully confesses everything that happened with the knights today. The third prince is so angry he has a headache. It's hard to find another person with level 7 magical power in the entire palace, and now he's gone to be a guard for a woman. Kozel consoles him from the side, but although Miss Yin Moxiao took your knight, she herself is your woman. Thinking of it this way, Harker is still yours. Then Kozel mentions that his sword was broken by Yin Moxiao and requests the third prince to give him another one. The third prince finally can't help but tell him to get lost. When Yin Moxiao, who has been out all day, returns to the palace, night has fallen. Having worked up a sweat, she asks the maids nearby if she can bathe now. After receiving a positive answer, she heads straight to the bathroom. Little does she know the maids didn't remind her that the third prince is also in the bath at this moment. They think that if Miss Yin Moxiao could keep him company, perhaps His Highness's terrible mood might improve a bit today. So when Yin Moxiao prepares to undress and enter the bath, she completely fails to notice the soap under her feet, just as she wonders what's on the floor. With a splash, she falls into the bath, landing right in the third prince's arms. She's very confused about why he's here too. At this moment, her only relief is that she hasn't finished undressing. She then breaks the awkward silence first, getting up and planning to bathe on the other side. Before she leaves, the third prince says to her very seriously, "I already have a lover, so no matter how you try to seduce me, I will never fall in love with you." Yin Moxiao is instantly speechless. She's never seen anyone so full of himself. She silently complains, where does his confidence even come from? The third prince reiterates to Yin Moxiao that although she's nominally his future wife, but even if she wears his beloved's favorite dress and styles her hair the same way, she's still not his beloved. Between them is nothing but an act that must convince everyone, even themselves. After entering the room, Yin Moxiao still doesn't understand. Now that you have someone you love, why use me as a shield? Wouldn't she be hurt if she saw us like this? Hearing her question, the third prince suddenly falls silent. There are always too many regrets he desperately wants to make up for, but some people, once lost, can never come back. Because his beloved woman was brutally murdered long ago, he'll never see her jealous again. He conceals the emotion in his eyes, and instead opens a book nearby, changing the subject. I heard Miss Eloise sent a maid to assassinate you in broad daylight, recalling that day's events. Yin Moxiao doesn't believe Miss Eloise ordered it, because if she had arranged it, she wouldn't have been so terrified. And she doesn't seem like the type of girl who would order someone killed. The third prince reminds her that even if Eloise doesn't intend to kill her, the Tilio family she belongs to is backed by the second, Prince Risel. So the Tilio family will target at her for their own interests. He looks up at Yin Moxiao. One slip and you could die without a burial. In the current situation, only one of you and Eloise can survive. Hearing this, Yin Moxiao falls silent. She knows full well that she and Miss Eloise are no different, both sacrificial pawns in their struggle for power. The next day, at the Tilio estate, Eloise hasn't left her room in 3 days. The family has arranged a new maid for her. Eloise doesn't understand why they would come knowing that being her maid could mean death, but the maid states bluntly that they're all insignificant ants whose purpose is to eliminate Eloise's rival so she can win the third prince's love and marry him. But can love really be obtained by eliminating rivals? Shortly after, having freshened up, Eloise comes before her father and brother. They coldly remind Eloise that only a servant died. As the third prince's fiancée, she couldn't afford to fall apart like this. But Eloise can't forget that incredibly bloody scene. The person who had just been walking beside her died in the most cruel way right before her eyes. And her father doesn't comfort her, but instead ruthlessly reminds her of the importance of her engagement to the third prince for the family. In their eyes, Eloise is nothing but a puppet. She doesn't need to know too much. She just needs to dress beautifully every day, obediently play the role of a perfect lady, and then successfully marry the third prince. Furthermore, they've already arranged for a top assassin named Ryan to kill the woman the third prince brought back. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yin Moxiao is completely unaware of their plot. She's at the training ground, enthusiastically inviting the knights to spar with her without using magical power. But those who have just been beaten by her now make excuses, claiming they need to hang, laundry, or go home for dinner, all quickly finding reasons to flee. Only Harker, who has become her guard, remains. He walks behind her, bowing his head respectfully. "My lady, if you don't mind, I'm willing to give my all to practice swordplay with you." Seeing Harker, Yin Moxiao remembers that her real purpose for coming to the training ground today was to have Harker teach her to use magical power. But Harker tells her she can't learn magical power, because magical power must be awakened in childhood using special stones and cannot be learned later. So Yin Moxiao can only use the weapons that is infused magical power in, as Kozel mentioned. She immediately hands the sword to Harker, asking him to infuse them with magical power. As Harker touches the weapons and releases his magical power, in an instant, light bursts visibly from the red blade. Not only do the blade glows, but Yin Moxiao also feels a warm current flowing from the sword. She immediately wants to test the power of a strike infused with magical power. She simply swings lightly toward the ground and the ground cracks instantly. When the light fades, a crack several meters long stretches menacingly before them. Yin Moxiao thinks that if all magical power users can easily cause such destruction, it's not hard to understand why Harker isn't skilled at close combat. In that case, she needs to master this power as soon as possible. As night falls, Yin Moxiao feels she's almost able to initially control the force, and the training ground before her has already been mostly destroyed by her. Suddenly, with a thud, Harker collapses to his knees. Sweat rolls down as he explains with labored breathing that his magical power is nearly depleted. Yin Moxiao immediately feels apologetic and apologizes to him. She didn't know that borrowing his magical power would exhaust him so much. Suddenly, a pure white sharp arrow shoots through the air, aimed directly at Yin Moxiao. Sensing danger, Harker immediately shields her, catching it with his bare hand. With his magical power nearly exhausted, the arrow pierces straight through his palm. At this moment, the assassin Ryan has silently breached the outer guards and stands atop the high wall, staring coldly at them. Harker urgently tells Yin Moxiao the opponent is strong. He'll draw attention so she can find a chance to escape. But Yin Moxiao has no intention of retreating. What she's calculating now is that if Harker's strength lies in his abundant magical power, then this assassin must also have a large amount of magical power. Isn't this a portable charger delivered right to her doorstep? She can't let him get away. As Ryan activates his magical power, Harker also summons his sword, and without a word he launches an attack at the tall building where Ryan stands. This sword strike actually slices off a section from the middle of the massive building. Immediately after, Harker uses his injured left hand to scoop up Yin Moxiao, who seems frozen in place. and rapidly retreats. In truth, Yin Moxiao isn't dazed by the terrifying destructive power. Rather, because she has no magical power herself, she can barely sense the assassin's attack trajectory and thus can't dodge in time. Ryan leaps down from the wall, approaching them step by step. Harker once again asks Yin Moxiao to find a chance to leave, prepared to fight the assassin to the death. But Yin Moxiao feels guilty because she caused Harker's physical exhaustion, and his left hand was severely injured by the arrow because of her. She says to him very seriously, "I'll take responsibility for you." These words make Harker's heart skip a beat, because he hasn't heard the word responsibility in a very long time. But Yin Moxiao's mind is still full of plans to capture the assassin alive and continuously exploit his magical power. She then lays out a battle plan to Harker. Ryan, who had been cautiously waiting, starts to grow impatient. He gathers his magical power, and suddenly unleashes a full-force strike. The next second, Harker uses the blinding light to obscure vision and interrupt his casting, and Yin Moxiao has already stealthily moved behind him. Immediately, a sharp blade pierces through Ryan's palm. Finally, Harker coordinates with Yin Moxiao to form a pincer attack, swinging his sword at Ryan again. Ryan is sent flying in an instant, just as Yin Moxiao thinks the battle is decided. Harker collapses, his magical power completely exhausted. She calls his name over and over but gets no response. Behind her, Ryan is gathering his magical power again, walking toward her step by step, preparing to assassinate her. At the critical moment, Yin Moxiao senses his presence and swings her blade. Ryan is severely wounded and falls to the ground. Yin Moxiao grabs his collar and swiftly pulls off his mask with her other hand. As the mask is removed, she's surprised to discover the assassin before her is a beautiful young man. "You're so pretty. Are you a girl?" Ryan says angrily. "I'm a man. I'm going to kill you." Yin Moxiao doesn't care. She gives him two choices directly. First, go to die right now. Or second, become her maid, and she'll try to fulfill what he wants. Hearing that she wants him to be a maid, Ryan immediately turns bright red with embarrassment. 1 second, he's refusing to compromise his dignity as a man, absolutely disagreeing. The next second, after Yin Moxiao's persuasion and coaxing, in just 2 days he transforms and changes his name to Rika, becoming a beautiful maid, because Yin Moxiao promised him she would save his younger sister. Vermantha tells him with a smile, "As a maid, you must smile. Although you were specially recommended by Miss Yin Moxiao. If you don't work seriously, I will punish you severely, and you won't be allowed to eat dinner." Meanwhile, receiving news that Harker has awakened, Yin Moxiao comes to his room. She sincerely apologizes for overdrawing his magical power that night, causing him to be unconscious for 2 full days. In fact, Harker has never understood some of her actions, so he asks, "You are the third prince's future wife. If the third prince ascends to the throne, you'll be the empress of the empire. So why do you insist on fighting personally? Am I not worthy of your trust?" Hearing this, Yin Moxiao answers very seriously, "The only one I can trust here might be you alone." Harker is shocked and quickly asks what she means. But Yin Moxiao presses her finger to her lips, signaling him to be quiet, then throws out a deadly question. "If the third prince and I both fell into water, who would you save first?" From his heart, Harker would save the third prince without hesitation. That's the lord he pledged to serve unto death. But since he's now sworn loyalty to Yin Moxiao, he would save her first. But this answer is exactly what Yin Moxiao wanted. As long as he's absolutely loyal to the third prince, then Harker is her strongest backing. Meanwhile, at the Tilio estate, the fact that they still haven't received news from Ryan worries Eloise's father and brother greatly. But this actually makes Eloise breathe a sigh of relief. However, Yin Moxiao is supposed to be her enemy. Why would she feel relieved knowing the assassin failed to assassinate her? Little did they know that Ryan has been forced to dress as a maid and is complaining about why he has to wipe the bookshelf over and over when it's already so clean. And the padding in his chest makes him very uncomfortable. Moreover, these heeled shoes make his feet hurt terribly. Who decided maids have to work dressed like this? Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao is also discussing his situation with Harker. Harker believes Ryan can't be trusted at all, but Yin Moxiao doesn't think so. Moreover, what she needs isn't his trust but his magical power. Furthermore, Ryan has a weakness. His sister, his only family in this world, who was captured by slave traders several months ago and made a slave. He wants to buy back his sister, but as a commoner, he can't afford the high price. So he sought help from Yin Moxiao. Only then does Harker understand the situation. Indeed, buying a slave would be relatively easier for Yin Moxiao. But Yin Moxiao herself is penniless, her daily expenses entirely provided by the third prince. However, even if she had money, she would never use it to buy slaves, because what she hates most is human trafficking. Since slave traders can snatch people by force, why can't she snatch them back? This reminds Harker of when the third prince said something similar. That was when he first met His Highness. At that time, His Highness cut through the slave shackles on his wrists with one stroke and said in a low voice, "We are all human." Though both His Highness and Miss Yin Moxiao are royal nobles, they treat slaves like them as human beings. Meanwhile, the former assassin, now named Rika, is carrying medicine, hesitantly walking down the corridor. But he's not sure sure if Yin Moxiao is here. So he casually asks Kozel outside the door, "Guard over there, is Miss Yin Moxiao here?" Hearing a maid call him a guard makes Kozel so angry veins bulge on his forehead. But when he looks closely at who's come, he seems to instantly fall in love. As Ryan apologizes to Kozel in a low voice, Kozel falls. He completely falls. This is the first time he's seen a beautiful lady this close. Then he puts away the anger on his face and attentively opens the door for him. When learning that this pretty maid with bright red hair is actually a man, Harker directly spits out the medicine he just took, and the dirty sheets have to be washed by Ryan. He's devastated. He is so agitated that he immediately grabs Harker's collar, wanting to beat him up. On the other side, Kozel relays to the third prince that Miss Yin Moxiao wants to leave the palace to buy a slave. The third prince agrees without hesitation, because human trafficking is Count Floyd's business, and Floyd serves under Risel. Yin Moxiao actually dares to cause trouble on his brother's territory. He finds this very interesting. He immediately orders Kozel to accompany her, and instructs him to report all details afterward. So after Kozel arrives at the room, he walks straight to Ryan, blushing as he tells him first that the third prince has agreed to let them leave the palace. Then they begin discussing the rescue plan. Currently, they know the target is doing hard labor at the Ruth farm, and will be locked in an underground cell at night. The dungeon has many guards, so they don't have numerical advantage. Therefore, they need to infiltrate quietly, quickly reach the target, and then withdraw rapidly. As a result, Yin Moxiao and Harker are one team, responsible for being decoys to attract the guards' attention. Ryan and Kozel are another team, waiting for an opportunity to infiltrate the dungeon and rescue the person. Tomorrow night, after dark, they'll begin the operation, and Kozel needs to disguise himself appropriately. Because the farm only imprisons women, he needs to dress as a woman to blend in. Hearing about dressing as a woman again, Kozel immediately wants to give up, but there's a reason he was chosen. After all, wouldn't it be terrifying if a muscular man nearly 2 meters tall like Harker wore women's clothing? Kozel struggles internally. He can embarrass himself in front of anyone, but he especially doesn't want to lose face in front of his crush, while Ryan's lips can't help but curl up. After all, with another man forced to dress as a woman, he feels much more balanced. "Sir Kozel, please. I want to save my sister no matter what." Kozel, who was absolutely unwilling just moments ago, instantly changes his expression upon hearing this. "Miss Rika, I will protect you. As for your sister, I will definitely rescue her too." This leaves Yin Moxiao watching from the side completely stunned. But she can't tell Kozel Ryan's true identity, because she still needs Ryan to keep a close eye on him. On the night of the operation, Yin Moxiao and Harker create a disturbance outside, attracting the guards' attention, to buy time for Ryan and Kozel, who disguised as women, to infiltrate the dungeon on the other side. At this moment, Ryan and Kozel have already arrived at the location marked on the map beforehand. Before them, many girls are locked up here like livestock by human traffickers. Each one is gaunt and hollow-eyed. They tried their best to look disheveled before entering, but seeing these people, they realize what a world of difference means. Ryan urgently asks them about his sister's whereabouts. After a long time, one person answers, and this answer is hard for him to believe. He angrily grabs her collar and confirms again. But no matter how he asks, they all give the same answer. Slaves here who get sick are taken away and thrown out like garbage. Only the guards outside know exactly where. On the other side, Yin Moxiao and Harker have already dealt with 8 guards. These 8 people are all ordinary people without magical power. Not having received a signal from Kozel's side for a long time, they're worried. Just then, rustling sounds come from the iron cage overhead. A beast boy is clinging to the bars, pitifully begging them to let him out. As long as they save him, he's willing to follow them for life. Yin Moxiao is shocked. How many more things exist in this world that she doesn't know about? Harker also shows surprise. He didn't expect a precious demon beast to appear in this slave dungeon. He then explains to Yin Moxiao that demon beasts are now very rare, usually bought by nobles as pets. Good-looking demon beasts are said to fetch astronomical prices at auction, and this demon beast clearly looks like the valuable type. So Yin Moxiao swings her sword and splits open the iron cage, rescuing the demon beast named Yuanqi. Unexpectedly, beneath his docile, harmless appearance, lies ferocity. He immediately bites Yin Moxiao viciously. After biting, he immediately flees, and after being bitten, Yin Moxiao loses consciousness. Until she recovers, Harker can only carry her while moving. The freed Yuanqi doesn't get far, before being discovered by patrolling guards. He is shot and his palm is pierced. Just as the guard lets down his guard to get a cage, Yuanqi suddenly launches an attack. In just the blink of an eye, he takes down one guard. Another guard with less than level 4 magical power is also nearly killed by him with one strike. As Yuanqi raises his right hand, his second strike slams the guard's head hard into the ground, even creating a large hole. By unfortunate coincidence, it lands right in front of Kozel and Ryan, just as Yuanqi prepares to deliver the final blow to the not-yet-dead guard. A chain filled with purple, magical power shoots toward him rapidly. In just an instant, it binds him tightly. These are the demon chains. specifically designed to deal with demon beasts. And the other end of the chain is held in Count Floyd's hand. Seeing this, the dying guard hastily kneels and apologizes for this incident, begging for his life. But Count Floyd doesn't even look. With a wave of his hand, he kills him on the spot. The bloody scene makes the surrounding slaves scream and cower, fearing they'll be next. Then Count Floyd orders his subordinates to bring pliers. With one hand, he grabs Yuanqi's face, intending to forcibly pull out his teeth. After punishing the demon beast, he orders his subordinates to clean up all the slaves present. His meaning is all too clear: kill them all. With pleas for mercy and screams, blood stains this entire area. Just as a sorcerer raises his hand to finish off the slave at his feet, a sword wrapped in crimson light shoots through the air, stopping him. And it belongs to Yin Moxiao. Looking at the massacre before her, she demands sharply, "Who can explain to me what this is? What do you take human lives for?" Seeing that disgusting Count Floyd is also here, Yin Moxiao already knows what's going on without them answering. Although she has no authority to stop him, it doesn't matter. She'll interfere anyway, and what can they do about it? Count Floyd mocks Yin Moxiao as just a woman with shallow vision who naturally can't understand why he needs to dispose of these slaves. Yin Moxiao walks closer step by step, her voice icy. Debts must be repaid, murders must be paid for with life. Slaves? No, all the people here, just like us, are human. Hearing this, Count Floyd can't help but laugh loudly. As a noble, I need to pay with my life for killing a few slaves? These worthless things, even if I don't kill them today, born in a slave market with diseases, where can they go? Fine, as you wish. I declare that the slaves here are all free from now on. But upon hearing this news, the slaves show expressions even more terrified than death. With a thud, they kneel on the ground, begging Count Floyd to let them continue working here. After all, here they at least have food to eat. They even complain that if these intruders hadn't angered the Count today, maybe tomorrow they'd still have work and food like before. Yin Moxiao looks at them and falls into thought. They could clearly be their own masters, yet they don't dare step out of this living hell. And all of this is because you've instilled in them the idea that they can only survive as slaves. You've stripped them of their dignity. You've stripped them of their right to education. You've forced them to become slaves. Ryan's sister also became a slave because of these nobles, and her whereabouts are still unknown. But Count Floyd is calculating that if Yin Moxiao were truly the third prince's beloved woman, how would he allow her to come to such a filthy place? Then he reveals a sinister plan. If Yin Moxiao dies here, he can claim His Highness's new favorite accidentally entered the slave dungeon and was beaten to death by slaves, and when they arrived it was already too late. Then he only needs to execute all the rebellious slaves to avenge her. It's indeed a good idea, but this also reminds Yin Moxiao. If she eliminates them all here, no one will know. With Count Floyd's command, several sorcerers surround her. Harker whispers to Yin Moxiao, "My lady, don't worry. All these people combined are no match for me. If you need, I'll eliminate them cleanly for you. If the second prince finds out later, it was me who went mad and killed everyone. It has nothing to do with you." But Yin Moxiao refuses him, because what she wants to do isn't just save these girls' bodies, but save their souls branded as lowly. Then she walks forward alone. Taking a deep breath, she says to all those who have been trampled upon, "Girls who were slaves, there's no place for you here, and you have no way back. Surely you already know this bald man has no intention of letting you live. In life, you were as lowly as ants, trampled by others. Must you be the same in death?" Her words fall, followed by a moment of deathly silence. Then the first person shakily stands up. Then the second, the third. Since it's death either way, they might as well live for themselves once. Follow this woman who brings them hope and carve out a bloody path. Yin Moxiao looks around behind her and finds almost everyone has stood up. She looks at the sorcerer nearest to her and viciously slashes at him, accompanied by screams. The man is embedded in the wall like a severed kite, impossible to pry out. And this strike is precisely Yin Moxiao's way of boosting the girls' morale, making them more certain that the choice they made today is not wrong. And this also makes Count Floyd anxious, urgently ordering his subordinates to kill with full force. But does he still have a chance? In the blink of an eye, they've already fought their way to him, although killing him will definitely provoke conflict between the second prince and third prince. What does it matter? He traffics people and sells children. He deserves to die. As Harker and Kozel, weapons in hand, are about to send him to his death, Count Floyd suddenly manipulates the demon chains, pulling Yuanqi in front of him as a shield. At this critical moment, Yin Moxiao swings her sword, interrupting Harker and Kozel's attack. This shocks them. This demon beast previously bit her after she saved him. Why is she now saving him again without hesitation? Isn't she afraid he'll betray her again? Behind her, Count Floyd is delighted to see this situation, because the contract of the demon chains on this demon beast is still in his hands. Whether the beast lives or dies is up to him. Then he makes an extremely excessive demand. He wants Yin Moxiao to kneel and apologize to him. Harker is furious and wants to kill him, but is stopped by Yin Moxiao. Then she actually kneels down. "Count Floyd, please forgive my previous rude behavior." This shocks her teammates again. The prince's beloved is actually kneeling to a dying count. But this doesn't make Count Floyd release Yuanqi. Instead, it makes him mock Yin Moxiao as truly interesting. In fact, Yin Moxiao already guessed he wouldn't keep his promise. She did all this just to buy enough time. It turns out a girl had already secretly moved behind Count Floyd. And Count Floyd, who was just laughing, is solidly hit on the head with a brick the next second. Yin Moxiao seizes the opportunity and moves forward, cutting off his left hand, and kills him while she's at it. When all of this settles, everyone is extremely happy. Only Yin Moxiao remains silent. She silently gazes at the sword in her hand, remembering the first time she killed someone. That year on duty, during a normal patrol, she encountered a criminal holding a child hostage because the child's father had swindled away his hard-earned money, leaving his whole family homeless, with his daughter seriously ill but no money for treatment. Seeing the criminal becoming increasingly agitated, according to regulations, she had the right to shoot him to ensure the hostage's safety. But as she hesitated whether to shoot, the criminal suddenly took up a knife and slit the child's throat. Only then did she fire. The next day, the news reported that the criminal's wife, unable to bear the pressure of public opinion, jumped to her death in the summer when she was 22. Because of her naivety and immaturity, 3 people lost their lives, and the way she showed no panic after killing someone is clearly observed by Kozel behind her, and the demon chain that could control Yuanqi transferred to her because Yin Moxiao killed Count Floyd. So Yuanqi chooses to follow her. Next, they need to deal with the remaining sorcerers who aided evil. They helped Count Floyd commit many evils and deserve to die. But before that, Ryan needs to extract information about his sister's whereabouts from them. It turns out Ryan's mother was a beauty who caught the eye of a nobleman and became his mistress. The nobleman, who had a son in his old age, was overjoyed. He arranged a magic awakening ceremony for his only son. But soon after, the nobleman suddenly died from illness. The nobleman's family couldn't tolerate a mistress and illegitimate son sharing the inheritance, so they ordered them hunted down. So his mother fled with him to the slums. From that moment on, his gentle mother changed completely. As a woman with only beauty, who had relied on a nobleman to survive, she had no idea how to raise a child. Without any means to make a living, she quickly used her looks to become a slave owner's mistress. But this time her luck ran out. That slave owner often beat her. To please the slave owner, Ryan's mother tried hard to get pregnant. Ryan couldn't understand how his mother, who had always claimed to love his father so much, could forget him after just a few years, even selling her jewelry for coins just to please her new lover. Until his mother gave birth, not to the hoped-for baby boy, but to a wrinkled baby girl. The slave owner actually picked up a brick and beat his mother to death while she was still weak from childbirth. As she lay dying, the slave owner was still shouting about selling the newborn baby girl. Though Ryan hated how his mother became a mistress without dignity and ended up like this, he still couldn't suppress his grief at losing her. So he killed that man. Then he picked up his still-crying baby sister. Finally, while sorting through his mother's belongings, he unexpectedly found a small box. Inside was a full box of gold coins and a letter. The letter had only one line: "Please live well for me." All the jewelry he thought his mother had sold to please her new lover had actually been exchanged for gold coins left for him. Ryan didn't understand why his mother seemed to know, as if foreseeing the future, that she wouldn't live long, or why she would exchange her treasured jewelry for coins to leave him. And so, a son born to an irresponsible nobleman and his mistress, and a baby girl who lost her mother at birth and whose father was killed by her brother, became each other's closest family. Time passed, and Rika gradually learned to speak. She knew how to act cute and cling to him. Rika was his redemption. But this kind of happiness was shattered by kidnappers who came out of nowhere. Now he desperately needs the sorcerer in front of him to tell him his sister is still alive. But the answer he gets is brutally cruel. According to the rules, slaves who can't continue working are thrown to the mass grave on the back hill near the dungeon, so Ryan immediately turns and runs toward the back hill, unaware that behind him, a girl who once knew Rika sadly lowers her head. She can't bear to tell Ryan the truth. It turns out that once, when she was about to faint from hunger, Rika secretly hid a bird egg and gave it to her with a smile. After that, they became good friends, and Rika always loved talking about her brother. This was the first time she'd seen such a girl in the slave market, who was sunny, lively, and lovable. She thought Rika must have grown up loved by her family, but Rika angered the guards by crying that she wanted to see her brother, and was beaten to death. In the end, she was dragged to the mass grave covered in blood. That time she said Rika was taken away because she was sick, which was just a kind lie. Meanwhile, Ryan runs toward the mass grave in despair, helplessly calling out Rika's name. He falls again and again, and then gets up trembling each time. Even though he knows there's little hope, he still hopes to see his little sister. But seeing the bones scattered everywhere before him, and a tattered hair ribbon fluttering in the wind, he falls into complete despair. That was the gift he gave Rika on her 12th birthday. He clutches the only thing Rika left behind and breaks down crying. It was he that killed Rika. It was because he was afraid of offending the high and mighty count that he never thought of fighting his way into the dungeon to rescue her. He hates himself for not having the courage to stop all this. If he could do it over, he would kill all the guards and save his sister. Even if they couldn't live in the Empire, it wouldn't matter. He could have fled with her. Perhaps there would have been a chance. Yin Moxiao steps forward, embraces him, and comforts him. No. A society that won't let kindness exist is the one that's truly evil. So your gentle, kind sister did nothing wrong. and neither did you for raising her to be kind. Ryan refuses to accept this. He wants revenge on this world that won't tolerate gentleness and kindness. He wants to become Yin Moxiao's sword, helping her climb to higher positions. He wants this damned slave system to be completely destroyed. For this, he's willing to give everything, including his life. And those girls rescued by Yin Moxiao also want to become strong women like her. It was she that made them understand they must resist oppression. They're willing to follow her to save more people still struggling and suffering. They once feared death and abandonment, but now they fear living as cowards even more. Rather than hiding and living in constant fear, they want to follow Yin Moxiao and resist tyranny. Even if they die, they want to live with dignity as human beings. Hearing this, Yin Moxiao shows a relieved smile. She was inexplicably reborn into this world, and at first she only wanted to survive, but now it's different. From this moment on, she wants to do something for them. However, it's time for her to go back to the palace to face that man. By the time they reach the palace, it's already evening. Yin Moxiao settles the girls in a side courtyard of the palace. Freya sees Yuanqi's fluffy tail and can't help wanting to reach out and touch it, but Yuanqi threatens her, "Don't touch me or I'll bite you." Freya is so frightened she backs up several steps, her eyes immediately filling with aggrieved tears. Then she turns and runs as if being chased by a vicious dog. This makes Yuanqi laugh. She runs like a wild dog. Little does he know Yin Moxiao is already annoyed with him. She raises her hand and flicks his forehead hard, teaching him not to be so rude. The physical discipline works immediately. Yuanqi apologizes pitifully at once. "I'm sorry, I won't say it again." Yin Moxiao tells him he needs to apologize to Freya next time. Seeing how dirty he is, she tells him to come bathe with her. In the bathhouse, just as Yin Moxiao is pondering the reason for her transmigration, she suddenly hears footsteps behind her. She knows it's Yuanqi and turns to look, only to discover he's actually a boy. She immediately punches him and sends him flying several meters, landing right at the feet of Ryan, who's dressed as a woman. In the end, Ryan simply grabs his tail and drags him to bathe on the other side. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kozel comes before the third prince to report everything that happened along the way. After finishing, he asks, "Your Highness, now that Count Floyd is dead, how should we handle the aftermath?" The third prince directly states that someone in Count Floyd's mansion will handle the aftermath for them. Only then does Kozel realize His Highness had planted someone in the Count's mansion all along. Otherwise, that demon beast couldn't have escaped from the heavily guarded mansion. Hearing this, Kozel realizes that everything has been under His Highness's control all along. He secretly swears in his heart that such a master is worth following for life. At this moment, the third prince suddenly becomes serious. "Although I told you to report to me immediately upon your return, you should at least have changed your clothes first. Or have you developed some special preference?" These words strike like a bolt from the blue. Kozel suddenly realizes that in his haste, he actually forgot to change out of his women's clothing. His face flushing red, he denies it repeatedly and flees through the door. He's done for. He's even gotten somewhat used to wearing a dress. And Yin Moxiao's rescue of the slaves suddenly reminds the third prince of the one he loved. "Someone has done what you once wanted to do, Lily." Soon after bathing, Yin Moxiao has changed into pajamas and leans against the headboard reading a book. At this moment, the third prince enters and immediately questions her, "You killed the count with your own hands. Do you have a death wish?" Hearing this, Yin Moxiao cuts straight to the heart of the matter and asks him in return, "The high and mighty count, appearing in that filthy dungeon, was that just a coincidence?" The third prince didn't expect her to be this clever, to have guessed his scheme. Suddenly he grabs both her wrists, pins her to the bed, and leans close, saying in a low voice, "As a pawn, you don't need to understand the rules of the chessboard. Remember, the lives of those people you brought back are in my hands, so you'd better have some awareness to obey me completely for their sake." Before leaving, he warns, "Be a good pawn and don't play any tricks, or I'll kill you and those women." Dealing properly with Eloise is what you should be doing right now. The next day, Yin Moxiao draws a blueprint by hand and asks Ryan if he can have it made. Although Ryan doesn't understand it, he tells her there are craftsmen in the palace who make accessories for noble ladies, and their skills are exquisite enough to produce it. But what is this? What do you want to make it for? Yin Moxiao keeps it mysterious and tells him to guess. Could it be a cleaning tool? Hearing his answer, Yin Moxiao just shows a mysterious smile. She then hands the blueprint to Kozel, telling him to inform the third prince that she wants craftsmen to make what's on the design to distribute to the girls rescued from the dungeon. Even the well-knowledgeable third prince doesn't recognize what's drawn on the blueprint and asks Kozel what it is. Kozel repeats with difficulty. Miss Yin Moxiao says this is a cleaning tool. Meanwhile, Risel also learns of Count Floyd's death. He's startled at first, then realizes it must be his brother's doing, but they have no evidence now, and there's no point in breaking with his brother at this moment. So he orders the guard before him. Count Floyd has a son who will inherit the title, right? Have him come see me. At this time, Yuanqi has an extremely painful nightmare. When he wakes up startled, he accidentally scratches Yin Moxiao. Freya, standing nearby, cries out in alarm, "My lady, you're injured. Let me treat your wound. We should keep that demon beast in a cage. He looks dangerous and probably isn't tamed yet." Hearing this, Yuanqi freezes. He watches Yin Moxiao's back as she turns to leave. Suddenly, he puts his fingers in his mouth and wrenches hard. Then he leaps up and hugs Yin Moxiao tightly. A moment later, he begs with a choked, crying voice, "Master, forgive me. I didn't mean to scratch you." After speaking, he holds out the tooth he pulled out to her. Because someone once told him that his teeth can be used as medicine, it is the best medicine for treating wounds. So please don't lock me up. Yin Moxiao looks at the bloody tooth in his palm, her heart stirring, understanding he must have been greatly hurt before. She crouches down and says softly, "Don't do things to hurt yourself anymore. I won't use your tooth. In addition, I'm not your master, and you're not my pet. I've never thought of locking you up. Go to take a break. As long as I'm here, no one will hurt you again." After that, she goes to visit the girls rescued from the dungeon. They're temporarily staying in the palace as maids. Seeing they have mostly recovered, Yin Moxiao arranges for them to train their physical fitness first, then she'll teach them combat skills. Although combat skills currently can't compete with magical power, at least they'll have a chance to protect themselves. The girls are happy about becoming stronger and immediately agree in unison. Meanwhile, Vitos, son of the late Count Floyd, brings his butler to greet Risel. He shows no grief over his father's death. After briefly addressing some matters following his father's death, he arrogantly declares, "From now on, I will inherit the position of head of the Floyd family. We will continue to pledge our loyalty to you, your highness." Seeing his frivolous attitude, Risel is displeased but maintains a smiling face. As long as he obeys, that's all that matters. On the other side, after training ends, Yin Moxiao goes to the study and points at the map on the desk, asking Vermantha. Since the blue parts are the sea, this means the Empire already has navigation technology. But why isn't there a complete world map? Vermantha answers that beyond the map, other races rule. Every 3 years, the Empire campaigns against demons at the borders to expand its territory. 3 years ago, His Highness led the army to expand the Empire's borders. By calculation, His Highness should be going on campaign again this year. Only then does Yin Moxiao realize that the Empire can't understand the world's full picture because of other races' existence, and the prosperous development of magical power has indirectly affected technological progress. Suddenly, Yuangqi interrupts them, wagging his tail happily and asking softly, "Is it afternoon tea time yet? I want to eat cake." Seeing his greedy look, Yin Moxiao helplessly agrees. On the other side, the new Count Floyd, Vitos, is heading home with his butler. His father's death is actually good news for him. The only thing that bothers him is that the demon beast he spent a fortune to acquire, which his father took from him, was burned to death in the mansion along with his father just after being sent there. Suddenly, he catches sight of a familiar figure in the distance. It's actually that demon beast he thought was dead. How is he alive? And how is he in the palace? Then he quickly steps forward and greets Yin Moxiao. "I am Vitos, the new head of the Floyd family." Yuanqi sees him and freezes instantly. In that instant, painful memories surge wildly through his mind, until Yin Moxiao gently strokes his head and says softly, "Don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you." Does he wake from the nightmare? Yin Moxiao coldly signals for them to leave, but Vitos won't let it go. The butler, relying on his master's status, speaks rudely. "This is the current head of the Floyd family. In the palace, apart from the royal family, no one dares to disrespect him, though I don't know which family's young lady you are. If you refuse the Count's goodwill, don't blame me for doing something disrespectful to you." His words barely finish before Yin Moxiao punches him in the face. If she weren't wearing a dress and all this jewelry, she'd definitely beat him until he only had a few teeth left. But Vitos remains arrogant. "Can you sell that demon beast to me? I can give you 3 times the auction price." Hearing this, Yuanqi looks at Yin Moxiao fearfully, worried she'll just sell him like that. After all, he was originally bought by Vitos for 500 gold coins. And 500 gold coins is enough for an ordinary person to live comfortably for decades, let alone 3 times that price now. He wants to run, but the demon chains are still in Yin Moxiao's hands. The next second, a thud interrupts his thoughts. Yin Moxiao punches the butler again. Ryan watches in amazement. As expected of Miss Yin Moxiao, her punch is really fast. But I think selling you would definitely be more profitable." Yin Moxiao only coldly threatens Vitos to get lost immediately. Otherwise, the next second, her fist will land on his face. Vitos watches this scene in disbelief. But before finding out the power behind her, he doesn't dare act rashly. He can only leave some harsh words and slink away with his butler. After they leave, the atmosphere suddenly becomes silent. Yuanqi doesn't understand why Yin Moxiao would refuse the wealth everyone dreams of. What exactly does she want from him? His teeth can be used as medicine and will grow back after being pulled, exchangeable for large amounts of money. His constitution is special and he heals extremely fast, so he is often bought by nobles to torture for entertainment. And his demon chains are in her hands. She could order him to do anything, but these days she hasn't asked him to do anything instead, giving him clean food and a soft bed. Yin Moxiao asks with a puzzled expression, Do I have to get something from you? By the way, what are demon chains? Yuanqi didn't expect this to be her answer. At this moment, Ryan starts teasing Yuanqi again. My lady, he's really troublesome. Why don't we just pull out all his teeth and sell him? This makes Yuanqi bristle immediately, and he snaps back that Ryan is a cross-dressing pervert. And so, the person and the demon beast bicker with each other while Yin Moxiao helplessly holds her forehead. This scene is witnessed entirely by the passing Risel. He leans against the railing and asks his attendant, "Why do I always take a liking to my brother's women?" The attendant quietly reminds him, "Your Highness, you have it backwards. It's that you want to take everything the third prince has." Hearing this, Risel freezes for a moment. Then a playful smile appears. He has an interesting plan now. So he immediately takes a bouquet of blue roses and presents them to Yin Moxiao. Like treating his past lovers, he bombards her with sweet talk and flattery. Yin Moxiao immediately steps back to distance herself from him. "Your Highness, I still have matters to attend to. Please allow me to take my leave." But Risel doesn't plan to let her go easily. He grabs her wrist, pulls her into his embrace and says, "It's rare to see you. Why don't we have a chat?" But Yin Moxiao doesn't think they have anything to chat about, until he lowers his voice and says, "Count Floyd, you killed him, didn't you?" Yin Moxiao becomes stiff, not expecting him to guess so accurately. Immediately, she steps back quickly, hiding her momentary panic and acting calm as she says she doesn't understand what he's talking about. Because if she admits it now, the consequences would be unthinkable. She lifts her eyes, her tone polite but cold. "Please let go." Risel gazes at her, a trace of surprise flashing in his eyes. This woman before him actually knows how to resist. She's different from all the women he's encountered before. He approaches again, tempting Yin Moxiao to switch to his side, saying he'll surely cherish her more than his brother. After speaking, he suddenly lowers his head and bites hard on the side of her neck. Yin Moxiao immediately slaps him across the face. The bite mark is particularly glaring on her pale skin. Having being slapped, Risel isn't angered but instead laughs softly and leans close to her ear. "I really want to know what my brother's reaction will be when he sees the mark I left on you. Will he still trust you? Hope you change your mind anytime." Finally, he waves goodbye to Yin Moxiao with fake sincerity and leaves. Ryan is instantly furious. That guy dares to do such filthy things in broad daylight. He is absolutely shameless. He's garbage. Yin Moxiao is calm though. It's just that this bite mark will probably take 2 or 3 days to heal. At this moment, Freya brings good news that the item on the blueprint has been completed. Before long, Yin Moxiao brings Ryan indoors to assemble the parts. With her practiced movements and the sound of metal clinking, the gun is quickly assembled. Then she loads the bullet, aims at an empty space, and impatiently pulls the trigger. But the bullet just falls out. Yin Moxiao expected this result, due to issues like seamless steel pipes and spring precision. The technology of this era cannot yet solve them. But since this world can use magical power to create impact force, then guns can definitely be made to work. After that, Yin Moxiao meets with the third prince, not hiding the mark on her neck at all. Facing his questioning, Yin Moxiao says calmly, "I wouldn't do that kind of thing with a man I don't love, just like I've never planned to do it with you." To Kozel's ears, this means that as long as Yin Moxiao likes someone, she'll actively be with the man she likes. He can only say that's just like her. The third prince's face also flushes red upon hearing this, angry in his heart. This shameless woman. What nonsense is she saying? But Yin Moxiao remains calm and indifferent. "If I had covered it up, could I have deceived you?" The third prince immediately understands the meaning in her words. "So that's what you mean. Coming to see me without covering it up is indeed the wisest approach." Kozel on the side doesn't understand at all what riddles they're speaking in. At this moment, Yin Moxiao proposes that the girls rescued from the dungeon will be under her full care from now on. The third prince agrees without hesitation. After she leaves, Kozel eagerly asks what their conversation just now actually meant. It turns out the bite mark Risel left on Yin Moxiao wasn't just a prank to anger the third prince, but more importantly, after learning of their cooperative relationship, Risel wanted to break the trust between them. After Yin Moxiao saw through this, she chose to see him honestly, because she knew clearly that covering it up would only deepen his suspicions. And her mention of the girls brought out from the dungeon was meant to remind him that she has a weakness that ensures she won't betray him. Kozel finally understands, but the third prince suddenly recalls the past. Back then, Risel had also left a bite mark on the one he loved, but his immature self at that time coldly pushed away her trembling hand and let her cry and apologize repeatedly. If he had been as rational then as he is now, perhaps the ending wouldn't have been what it was. At this moment, on the other side, Eloise also comes before Yin Moxiao. In fact, when she was young, Eloise was obsessed with exploration and research, just to explore which would land first when 2 different-sized pieces of ore fell simultaneously. Her father angrily scolded her that this wasn't something she should do as a lady, and he even ordered her locked in a dark basement and starved for 2 days as punishment. No matter how her mother pleaded, her father remained unmoved. From that day on, she gradually gave up her ideals, and day after day learned to be a lady according to her father's demands. A few years later, she was engaged to the third prince. To help clear obstacles and achieve his goal, her father viewed the third prince's lover as a stumbling block. A week later, that young woman named Lillian ended up dead by suicide. At that time, Eloise was 16 and felt fear of the Tilio family for the first time. Only then did she realize that her marriage was a cold transaction, and even those who hindered this transaction would die. And seeing through all of this yet being powerless to resist made her even more pitiful. In the blink of an eye, when she turned 19, her father arranged for her personal maid Wendy to ensure her safety in the palace. At the time, she didn't understand why her father would arrange for someone to protect her, but soon she found it out. After entering the palace, she nearly lost her life just from drinking afternoon tea. It turned out countless families had their eyes on the position of the third princess. And as the future third princess, she naturally became a thorn in their side. She didn't want to die, but didn't dare disobey her father's orders either. That day it was sunny, the breeze carrying sweet floral scents. That girl called Yin Moxiao looked only 16 or 17. She was beautiful, but the moment Eloise saw her, she understood she was also someone who couldn't be herself. She was just a substitute for the third prince's former lover. Coming from a commoner background, Yin Moxiao might find it even harder to survive in the palace. Eloise didn't want to see anyone else die, so she put on airs to scare her away, but didn't succeed. So today, meeting Yin Moxiao again, she tries to act arrogant to persuade her to leave this cruel place of intrigue. But Yin Moxiao instead shows concern about whether she's afraid. Witnessing someone die right in front of you is no small matter. If not handled well, it can leave serious psychological trauma. If you're still afraid, it's best to confide in friends more. With that, she leaves. Eloise is stunned. Regarding Wendy's death, Yin Moxiao is actually the first person to show concern for her. The next day, Yin Moxiao begins training the girls. First, she has them do push-ups. At first, the girls cry from exhaustion due to poor physical strength, but as soon as Yin Moxiao mentions delicious food for dinner, they immediately can do it. Ryan on the side trembles, not daring to breathe loudly. Just as he's relieved that the demon instructor didn't make him train along, a malicious hand lands on his shoulder. Rika, don't stand there idle either. I've called Harker to be our sparring partner. Meanwhile, at the Carrie Ann residence, Eloise's friend Luna changes into a dress that isn't fancy, because this is the dress she and Eloise used to wear when studying minerals together. She feels only this way will she have the courage to say those words to her good friend. After her mother reminds her to take care of her health, she happily sets off. Unfortunately, when she hurries there, she can't find Eloise, but she happens to run into Yin Moxiao, so she breaks into a smile and politely approaches to greet her. Hello, I'm Luna, and I'm looking for Miss Eloise. Have you seen her by any chance? Yin Moxiao tells her without hiding anything that Eloise was here about 2 hours ago, and afterwards she seemed to head toward the back garden, suggesting Luna could try looking there. After Luna thanks her, she walks quickly toward the garden. Yin Moxiao watches her retreating figure and sighs softly. So there are noble young ladies in this palace who dress so simple and have such gentle temperaments. But Luna searches the back garden with her maid for a long time. By evening, she still hasn't found Eloise. They wander further and further, unknowingly stepping beyond the boundaries of the royal garden. Just as the maid suggests they turn back, Luna spots what seems to be a figure in the distance. Looking closely, she realizes it's the new maid serving Eloise, so she walks over, never expecting that the second Prince Risel is also there. As Luna stares at them in confusion, Risel assumes she has heard their entire conversation and coldly orders his guard to kill her. The guard immediately charges toward Luna at lightning speed. Before Luna can even process what's happening, he grabs her by the throat. With a violent twist, Luna collapses silently to the ground. Another innocent life extinguished without a sound in the struggle for power. Witnessing this scene, Eloise nearly screams, but the next second her maid clamps a hand firmly over her mouth. The maid knows clearly that if Eloise shows even the slightest reaction, they will be killed on the spot just like Luna. So the maid forces herself to stay calm and explains to Risel, "You are mistaken, your highness. My lady was just frightened. How could the daughter of a viscount who can barely keep his title be acquainted with my lady? Moreover, we have already sworn our loyalty to you." Only Eloise weeps silently. Since Eloise has had episodes of shock before, Risel doesn't probe further and simply orders the maid to take her back to rest. He then instructs his guard to bury the two bodies and notify Viscount Carrie Ann that his daughter has died in an accident. As the maid supports Eloise and they walk away, her tears flow freely. Her breathing is ragged, grief choking her so completely she cannot speak a single word. Recalling the moments spent with Luna, Eloise murmurs her name, crying so hard she can barely make a sound. Overwhelmed by grief, she coughs up blood and collapses unconscious. If her life had been nothing but darkness, Luna was the first ray of light that shone into it. No one in the family except her mother allowed her to study minerals. In their eyes, it was disgraceful for a girl to study rocks. It was Luna who encouraged her to be herself. That was the warmest comfort in her darkest years. But now that light is extinguished forever, because Luna is gone forever. When she wakes, the maid tells her that her brother Kenneth has come. The next second, Kenneth steps into the room, but his eyes hold only mockery, not a trace of concern for Eloise. He dismissively informs her that this afternoon he will depart for the northern mountains to mine the rhodolite vein she claimed had insufficient yield. After his return, he will inherit the position of family head and become an imperial duke. He looks down at Eloise. And you, my sister, focus on recovering your health. Once you become the third princess, you must serve me and the family well. After Kenneth leaves, the maid tells Eloise that Viscount Carrian sent over one of Miss Luna's belongings yesterday, something Luna had wanted to give her before she died. Seeing what's inside the box, she suddenly remembers. They once accidentally created something with tremendous destructive power, but despite repeated attempts afterward, they never succeeded again. Just when she was frustrated about why they were stuck at this step, Luna proposed a new idea. Though the success rate was low, she desperately wanted to try it. They made a promise that once Luna succeeded, she would show it to her. But now she will never come back. In that instant, Eloise seems to see through everything. Her Tilio family pledges loyalty to the second Prince Risel, yet they marry her off to the third prince. Their purpose is likely to use the Tilio family to control the third prince. And she, the famous noble lady of the empire, is nothing more than a sacrifice in the struggle for power. So Eloise resolves to become the third princess. Then she will use the third prince to eliminate Risel. From today on, she will be Eloise, not the duke's daughter. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao murmurs in her sleep, "Mom." This leaves the third prince beside her utterly speechless. "I'm not your mother." He frowns and scolds, "You really have terrible sleeping habits, and you're so noisy." Yin Moxiao tells him matter-of-factly that if he doesn't like it, he can go sleep outside. Then she asks him when they can finally sleep in separate rooms. The third prince doesn't give her a clear answer. He simply rises and walks to the window, saying coolly, "Not now, at least. Too many people are watching us. We can't let our guard down. Besides, what strange things have you been having the royal craftsmen make? They're supposed to craft jewelry for noble ladies." "I was just a bit bored, so I had them make some toys." "Your Highness, you don't mind, do you?" The next day she brings her so-called toys to the training grounds. Today she will teach the girls how to use crossbows. Yin Moxiao then signals Ryan to hit the distant target with magical power. Ryan gathers his magical power and aims at the target. Soon, magical power shoots from his hand, hitting the bullseye in less than 5 seconds. After praising Ryan for his good work, Yin Moxiao raises the crossbow and aims with focus. Then she pulls the trigger. Quickly, the bolt strikes dead center with such force it nearly pierces through the target. The girls are stunned, unable to believe this weapon can match magical power. Yin Moxiao says solemnly, "Without magical power, if we want to protect ourselves, we need weapons with equivalent force to make up for it. Human strength doesn't rely solely on magical power. My homeland was a world where magical power didn't exist. There, people used their wisdom to create all kinds of weapons to protect their homes." After explaining the crossbow's usage in detail and arranging for the girls to practice in turns, she takes Ryan back to the study. Ryan immediately voices his confusion. "My lady, that crossbow seems different from the blueprint you drew before." Yin Moxiao explains that what she drew before was a gun, a weapon more powerful than a crossbow. But since they lack gunpowder made from sulfur, saltpeter, and charcoal, they can't make guns for now. If only they had someone proficient in chemistry and mineral studies. Though Ryan doesn't understand what she's talking about. Hearing her mention minerals reminds him of the Tilio family. Eloise's family are experts in this field. Upon hearing this, Yin Moxiao immediately instructs Ryan to arrange a meeting with Eloise. Although Eloise's attitude toward her isn't particularly friendly, Yin Moxiao doesn't dislike her. After all, they are both pawns forced into the struggle for imperial power. Perhaps she also wants to escape the chessboard? Afterward, with Ryan's help, Yin Moxiao learns about the background of the Tilio family. The Tilio family controls the empire's mineral resources and is responsible for mining rare minerals like awakening stones and rhodolite. The family head, Kramer Weston, is one of the empire's 4 great dukes and holds 12 cities. The next heir is his son, Kenneth. The head of the Tilio family takes only one wife for life. After the Duchess died in childbirth years ago, Duke Tilio has never remarried. Thus, he has always been praised by noble ladies as the ideal husband. Seeing that Yin Moxiao has learned this background, Ryan asks the question buried in his heart for so long. "My lady, where exactly do you come from? You seem to know nothing about basic things here." Hearing this, Yin Moxiao laughs softly. She thought it was something serious. She then recounts the story of how she came to be here. Though the story sounds incredible, Ryan believes it completely. Because it was Yin Moxiao who personally killed the count who murdered his sister. So from that moment on, he had already decided to be loyal to her. Whatever she says, he will believe. Then he also confesses to Yin Moxiao that his real name is Ryan, and Rika was his little sister's name. Meanwhile, at Skadar Mountain in the Northern Empire, a large number of slaves have gathered for mining. Overseeing this project is Kenneth from the Tilio family. Right now, he is frustrated that despite days of mining, they haven't found sufficient rhodolite. He ignored Eloise's warnings and insisted on coming here, all because this man beside him named Aikisar judged the veins here to be rich. Since his judgments had never been wrong before, Kenneth believed him, but this time it concerns whether he can inherit the title. If they don't extract enough ore this time, he will definitely kill Aikisar. In fact, Kenneth, who has no real interest in minerals, feels anxious every time he deals with these stones. After all, if he fails even once, he will lose all his dignity. Recalling how Eloise protested his mining of this mountain range in front of their father, listing all sorts of reasons, fills him with resentment. Why does she always have to stand up and oppose him? Since childhood, all she ever does is show off her talent in front of him. At the same time, Eloise, who is studying mineral texts, receives an invitation from Yin Moxiao. Seeing this, she closes the book without hesitation. She wants to see what Yin Moxiao wants with her. Soon she arrives at the agreed location. Yin Moxiao doesn't beat around the bush and gets straight to the point. "Miss Eloise, I hope you'll give up on becoming the third princess." Hearing this, Eloise thinks she must be joking. After all, Yin Moxiao is merely a commoner. Where does she get the nerve to say such a thing? You're the one who should give up. If you don't want to die early, just quietly leave the palace. Yin Moxiao calmly picks up her teacup, saying she has reasons she cannot leave. Eloise makes an offer. "We have no grudge. If you agree to leave, I'll give you a large fortune and a new identity, enough for you to live comfortably outside the palace for life." After all, what the Tilio family lacks least is money. Yin Moxiao is momentarily speechless. She never expected Eloise saw her as so shallow. Seeing her prolonged silence, Eloise says mockingly, "Don't tell me you can't bear to leave the third prince. Could it be you've fallen in love with him?" Yin Moxiao is even more speechless. She says disdainfully, "A man who can't forget his first love, thinks the whole world owes him, and is always full of himself, thinking everyone is trying to seduce him? Where's the appeal?" These words leave not only Eloise and her maid stunned. Even Ryan shows an expression of disbelief. Seeing that Yin Moxiao hasn't directly responded to the offer she just made, the maid beside Eloise reminds her this is a good deal. Yin Moxiao smiles slightly. "I'm glad Miss Eloise never thought of simply killing me, but I refuse." Having received her answer, Eloise feels there's no need to continue the conversation and rises to leave. But Yin Moxiao stops her. "Miss Eloise, being a pawn and having your life controlled by others doesn't feel good, does it? How about trying to escape this chessboard with me?" Hearing these words, Eloise stops, but turns back and tells Yin Moxiao she doesn't understand what she's talking about. Seeing she's still willing to listen, Yin Moxiao speaks frankly. She can help Eloise become the head of the Tilio family, inherit the title, and seize power. "Miss Eloise, rather than struggling to escape the cage, it's more secure to turn the cage into your own fortress. Holding power in your hands is the best strategy. Only those who hold power can control their own lives and do what they wish. Miss Eloise, if one day you change your mind, remember, I will stand on your side and lend you my support. I look forward to the day when we can sit here together again over afternoon tea and discuss how to escape the chessboard." Meanwhile, at Skadar Mountain in the north, Kenneth, who has been staying at the mining site for days, finally receives good news. The rhodolite vein has been found. As long as he extracts enough rhodolite, he can smoothly inherit the Duke's position. Hearing this, Kenneth is so excited he can barely suppress his smile. According to regulations, he must personally go into the mine to perform the blessing ritual by using magical power. However, the blessing ritual requires night guards as witnesses, yet only Aikisar came to notify him, which inevitably makes him suspicious. Aikisar casually makes up an excuse, dispelling his doubts. When Kenneth asks why there's no sound from the others, Aikisar stops hiding and reveals the truth with a smile. They are all gone. Kenneth wonders if he heard wrong. Aikisar's smile doesn't change, but his tone sends chills. "I said, those people are all dead." Only now does Kenneth realize something is terribly wrong. But Aikisar has already drawn a gleaming cold dagger from behind and thrusts it straight toward him. In panic, Kenneth stumbles backward and collides with protruding bricks. He staggers to the ground, narrowly avoiding the fatal blow, but he doesn't completely escape. He raises his hand to touch his wounded forehead and asks what Aikisar wants. Kenneth stares in terror at the approaching blade, cowering into the corner, demanding in a trembling voice, "Who sent you? You ungrateful wretch? I was the one who took you in." Before he finishes speaking, he suddenly launches a magical power sneak attack, but Aikisar easily deflects it. Kenneth is horrified. "How is this possible? You blocked my attack with magical power? How does you, a mere commoner, have magical power? Who are you?" Aikisar laughs lightly and slowly removes his hood. "My foolish old brother, haven't you realized yet? To be precise, my half-brother. As for why I can block your attack, it's obviously because my magical power level is higher than yours." Kenneth can't believe he has another brother. "Impossible! Father only has one son, it's me. Stop spouting nonsense." Aikisar doesn't bother explaining further. Either way, Kenneth won't survive the night. He immediately swings his magical power-infused weapon at Kenneth, who scrambles and crawls, barely dodging. But this is actually intentional on Aikisar's part. He wants to watch Kenneth's pathetic dying struggles. He wants Kenneth to taste the terror of impending death. Kenneth flees the room, shouting for help, but no one responds. He suddenly remembers his father once said he was his only son. To live up to his father's expectations, he desperately studied the mineral knowledge essential to the family. But no matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't understand those complex mineral theories. Yet Eloise could easily identify the types, which were the special awakening stones for magical power, which minerals were best for forging, and which quality was optimal. The things he couldn't memorize even through rote learning, Eloise, who never attended classes, knew by heart. He felt deeply defeated then. At this moment, Aikisar closes in again, striking his shoulder viciously. Intense pain spreads through his body instantly. Kenneth looks up, only to see Aikisar still smiling, reminding him to focus when running for his life. Kenneth doesn't understand. I was the one who took you in, and I never mistreated you. Why are you doing this to me? Aikisar sneers. Took me in? Thanks to your stupidity, I was able to stay by your side so easily. Only now does Kenneth realize that Aikisar had carefully planned all of this from the very beginning. Aikisar signals for him to keep running, but covered in blood, where can he possibly go? If his magical power were stronger, perhaps he wouldn't be in such a pathetic state. Back when he and Eloise awakened their magical power together, his awakened magical power was extremely weak, making him a laughingstock. But Eloise awakened level 5 magical power, even 2 levels higher than their father's, reaching the level of an imperial knight. In his eyes, everyone flocked around Eloise, while he was seen as worthless. But he never did anything wrong. He really tried so hard. Why was he always looked down upon? As magical power from behind strikes his chest, Aikisar follows the trail of blood, his tone still mocking. However, this time, Kenneth no longer has the strength to escape. Afterward, Aikisar buries Kenneth and says softly to his dead brother, "Do you know why I had to kill you? Because you're his child. From that day on, I swore to take everything from the Tilio family, because I want that man to die in painful regret." The next day, to give the ordinary girls the power to protect themselves, Yin Moxiao conducts rigorous training for them. The next second, Ryan hurries over with bad news. Duke Tilio's son Kenneth died in an accident when the northern mountain mine collapsed. None of the accompanying knights and guards survived. At this critical moment, with the heir's sudden death, Yin Moxiao senses something unusual, because the current Duke Tilio originally had 2 older brothers, but both died in accidents, leaving him as the sole surviving family member. That's how he eventually inherited the title. Logically, Kenneth shouldn't be caught in family infighting, since he was the only one in the Tilio family qualified to inherit. This unusual accident makes Yin Moxiao worry about Eloise's current situation. Meanwhile, at the Tilio family cemetery, a funeral is being held for Kenneth. Although Kenneth had bullied Eloise since childhood, he was still her brother, and his death saddens Eloise deeply. Duke Tilio fell gravely ill upon learning of Kenneth's death, and today he barely drags his sick body to attend the funeral. After the funeral, he gathers everyone in the main hall and announces gravely, "As you all know, my son, the heir of the Tilio family, died in a mining accident at Skadar Mountain in the north. I am deeply grieved. However, the rumors that the Tilio family has no heir are entirely false. I have another son who carries the Tilio family bloodline." At these words, Eloise can't believe it. She has never heard her father mention having another son. Everyone is also discussing what's going on. As Duke Tilio summons him, the door opens, but the person who enters is actually Aikisar. At the same time, Duke Tilio begins introducing his identity. "Aikisar is the child of my late wife. When my wife died in childbirth years ago, she left behind this sickly child. Due to health issues, he has lived in the south all these years. He returns today to inherit the family business and title." But Eloise clearly remembers that when her mother died, the child born from her womb was stillborn, and had long been buried with her mother. Although this matter was never made public, she knows for certain that her mother never gave birth to a 3rd child. After the meeting, Duke Tilio urges Eloise to marry the 3rd prince as soon as possible, and bear at least 2 children, one of whom must inherit the title. Currently, Aikisar is only the acting family head, because Duke Tilio doesn't fully trust him. As a contingency, he made a contract with Aikisar. As long as Eloise bears a son, Aikisar must step down, or he will suffer contract backlash. Although Duke Tilio also suspects that Aikisar's sudden appearance is connected to Kenneth's death, this also makes one fact clear to him: Kenneth was unable to shoulder the position of family head. Without sufficient strength, one has no right to inherit his position. He grieves, but only for the immense energy and time he wasted raising such a useless son. If not for the contract he made with Eloise's mother years ago, he could have had several more sons to cultivate qualified heirs. At this moment, Aikisar enters carrying a teacup. "Father, sister, sorry to interrupt your conversation. Father, I heard you've been feeling unwell recently, so I specially brewed tea for you." Duke Tilio scolds him that such trivial matters can be left to servants, but Aikisar looks aggrieved and says he just wanted to personally do something for him. Hearing this, Eloise darkens his face, and she slaps him hard across the face. She doesn't even know why seeing Aikisar fills her with disgust. But even after being slapped, Aikisar repeatedly apologizes to Eloise. By the time Eloise realizes what she just did, it's too late. Duke Tilio scolds her furiously, then slaps her across the face as well, telling her to remember to get along peacefully with Aikisar from now on. Aikisar hurries forward. "Father, please calm down. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have upset Eloise. Perhaps Sister Eloise has been working too hard studying minerals. Please forgive her." These words enrage Duke Tilio, who has always forbidden Eloise from working with minerals. She is then locked in the pitch-black basement. She can't even remember how many times this has happened. But now she won't use magical power to light her surroundings out of fear of darkness like she did as a child. Because if she falls back into darkness after exhausting her strength, she will only feel more desperate. To dispel this sense of helplessness, she tries hard to recall the content of the mineral texts she's been reading recently. After an unknown amount of time, the door suddenly opens. Eloise freezes. She never expected anyone would come at this time, and even more surprising is that the visitors are Yin Moxiao and her maid. Yin Moxiao walks slowly toward her, while Ryan teases her for crying. Eloise immediately jumps up to retort, "I wasn't crying!" Countless questions flood her mind. She's about to call out to the guards outside, but Yin Moxiao already covers her mouth, signaling her to keep quiet. "We won't hurt you. Don't worry." Eloise demands to know what they want, or she won't easily trust them. Yin Moxiao explains that to protect her, she went through great effort to infiltrate the Duke's mansion as a maid 3 days ago. Eloise looks speechless. "Your words are completely unconvincing. Do you even remember we're supposed to be rivals?" 3 days ago, when Yin Moxiao proposed to the third prince that she infiltrate the Duke's mansion, the third prince thought she wanted to kill Eloise. After her explanation, he eventually agreed to let her leave the palace. But after Yin Moxiao left, Kozel hurriedly said, "Your Highness, are you really letting her go to the Duke's mansion? What if she actually kills Miss Eloise?" Hearing this, the third prince isn't worried at all, but shows a meaningful smile. "Wouldn't that be perfect? If she kills Eloise, I'll just have to execute her to answer to Duke Tilio." He then arranges for Kozel to follow Yin Moxiao. Kozel thought it was just surveillance, but it turns out he has to wear women's clothing again. Having found Eloise, Yin Moxiao begins discussing cooperation with her. At first, Eloise firmly refuses, but when Yin Moxiao mentions that Kenneth's death is very likely connected to Aikisar, because after returning to the Tilio family, Aikisar not only didn't try to please her but also sowed discord between her and her father. Moreover, now there's no one around her she can fully trust. Eloise reluctantly ends up believing Yin Moxiao. Yin Moxiao then confesses that she escaped from the slave market, but had bad luck that day and was coerced by the third prince to return to the palace, becoming his shield. Eloise suddenly feels their kindred spirits in misfortune. Finally, Yin Moxiao plans to meet with Aikisar on Eloise's behalf first. The next morning, Yin Moxiao brings Ryan and Kozel to Aikisar's bedroom. To dispel his doubts, Yin Moxiao speaks first. "Good morning, Lord Aikisar. Today it's my turn to attend to you." After Aikisar politely thanks her, Yin Moxiao begins arranging his clothes, but Aikisar still hasn't let down his guard against her and casually asks about her background. Yin Moxiao patiently ties his necktie while answering normally. Aikisar suddenly gently grasps her hand. "Can you tell me your name, beautiful lady? I'd like to know more about you." Facing this sudden situation, Yin Moxiao endures it to achieve her ultimate goal. She smiles gracefully. "I'm deeply honored you ask my name. If you don't mind, you can call me Xiao." But Ryan beside her seems unable to hold back. Seeing this man dare to touch Yin Moxiao's hand, he gets angry. He pushes Yin Moxiao aside and jumps in. "Lord Aikisar, my name is Rika. Please remember my name. From now on, let me attend to your dressing." Kozel, standing to the side, immediately feels heartbroken. He never expected Rika would be so proactive in reaching for someone else's hand. He feels wronged. He feels hurt. After they leave the room, Ryan furiously scolds Aikisar. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao stares thoughtfully at her hands, suspecting her identity may have been exposed. She guesses that Aikisar was probably observing her hands earlier. After all, her current body is that of her 16-year-old self, back when she was still studying, with smooth skin. Nothing like the hands of a maid who does rough work year-round. However, Aikisar didn't expose her on the spot. Perhaps she's just overthinking. Either way, they must be more cautious in their next moves. Meanwhile, the maid Maya reminds Eloise that keeping Yin Moxiao at the Tilio residence might be a hidden danger. But Eloise's expression turns stern as she snaps back. "I don't plan to let them leave. Do you have a problem with that?" Meyer looks at her lady, who seems like a completely different person. She drops her earlier attitude and smiles. "My lady, my duty is to protect you. But if they put you in danger, I'll kill them without hesitation." Eloise closes the book in her hands and firmly states that Yin Moxiao would never harm her. But then she sighs softly, because it's time for her dance practice. On the way to the dancing room, Eloise sees the head maid in the distance sternly scolding several new maids. Upon closer inspection, she's surprised to see Yin Moxiao among them, respectfully apologizing to the head maid. She truly didn't expect Yin Moxiao to be seriously doing the work of a maid. So Eloise quickly steps forward and tells the head maid that she wants the new maids to accompany her. But out of the 3, she only takes 2. The royal guard Kozel is left alone to continue being scolded. This isn't really Eloise's fault. Yesterday in the basement, Kozel was keeping watch outside the entire time, so Eloise never saw him. Ryan grins mischievously and says Kozel was sent by the third prince to spy on them. Eloise then actually leaves him there to clean. Yin Moxiao then thanks thanks Eloise for specifically transferring them over and asks if the residence has records of the servants, including when servants were hired, changes in numbers, and so on. Eloise looks puzzled at the question. Yes, we do, but I need to go to dance class now. I don't have time to take you there. The next second, Yin Moxiao directly grabs her hand. She says seriously, skip it. At a time like this, you're still going to dance? Eloise is momentarily stunned. This is something she's wanted to do, but never dared to for 20 years. They then arrive at the archive room. Watching Yin Moxiao carefully investigate clues, Eloise used to think she was just a brute. She never imagined Yin Moxiao had such a serious side. The next day, Eloise hears that her father's condition has worsened and hurries to his bedroom. As soon as she arrives, she demands answers from Aikisar. What's going on? Why has father's health been declining ever since you entered the residence half a month ago? But Aikisar responds with a hint of mockery. Miss Eloise, don't worry, father just took the medicine. The doctor prepared and went to sleep. Eloise stares at the maid beside him holding the medicine bowl. Suddenly, she recalls Yin Moxiao's earlier warning. About 17 years ago, the Tilio ducal household began frequently replacing servants. Even longtime servants gradually resigned. But Eloise, who was just born back then, has no way of knowing what actually happened. So Yin Moxiao suggested she pay close attention to servants who have worked in the residence for more than 5 years, because those servants she sees might all be enemies planted here. At that time, Eloise found it hard to believe. Why would people who are kind and respectful to her every day become her enemies? She thought the regular replacement of servants might just be a coincidence. After all, she never heard of anything special happening 17 years ago. But now, she changes her mind. Why did she never notice before? All those servants who have worked in the residence for more than 5 years are now conveniently all assigned to Aikisar. But right now, Aikisar holds the power. So her urgent matter is to leave and find Yin Moxiao to discuss the discovery. After Eloise leaves, a servant at Aikisar's side reports that 2 maids took Eloise to look up information about the servants yesterday. Aikisar immediately orders him to get rid of those 2 maids. At this moment, Yin Moxiao is still examining servant records and analyzing clues. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. The servant from earlier walks in. You're Xiao, right? Please come with me. Miss Eloise is looking for you. Please follow me. In fact, Yin Moxiao has already roughly guessed his true purpose. Though she smiles and agrees on the surface, she wants to see what tricks he's planning. Along the way, the man chatters endlessly. You're really lucky. Just entered the residence, and you already get to serve Miss Eloise. Not like me. Every day I'm stuck doing odd jobs in the kitchen. Washing dishes and plates is so exhausting. Plus, the Duke hasn't been good lately. I also have to prepare medicine daily. Who knows when he'll recover? For us servants, we just hope for a stable life. Yin Moxiao doesn't want to hear his nonsense anymore, so she deliberately closes her eyes, creating an opening. As expected, the next second, he unhesitatingly draws a dagger. His sharp gaze is completely different from his rambling demeanor just moments ago. Yin Moxiao opens her eyes and instantly seizes his wrist holding the dagger. I see. You have no magical power. Her movements are swift, her strength astonishing. The man is shocked. Who are you? Yin Moxiao has already raised her fist and strikes directly at his chest. The man is instantly sent flying. After falling to the ground, he still can't believe he lost to a woman. He mutters, "Who are you really?" Yin Moxiao warns him not to move. After all, his bones are broken. If he injures his internal organs, she won't be responsible. Meanwhile, Eloise, hiding nearby, witnessed everything. Seeing that Yin Moxiao has defeated the assassin, Eloise quickly steps forward to ask if she's hurt. Afterward, they take the man to the basement to interrogate him. To save his life, the man quickly confesses everything. I'm loyal to Master Aikisar. I just follow his orders. As far as I know, at least half of the servants in the residence were arranged by him. I'm just a background character. I really don't know the exact numbers. Eloise is shocked. How is that possible? More than half the servants are his people. How did he start replacing servants 17 years ago? Hearing her mention 17 years ago, the man looks confused. He then says he only entered the residence 3 years ago and knows nothing about things that long ago. At this moment, with a clang, Yin Moxiao props her foot on the table. The man thinks she's angry and stammers incoherently that he's really not lying. Since you don't know anything, there's no need for me to keep you. The man immediately shows fear on his face. His mind races. He quickly confesses again. People like me without magical power just eliminate obstacles for the master. But I know Master Aikisar has a few people with magical power around him. They entered the residence earlier than me and definitely know more. In addition, about 5 years ago, Master Aikisar had already started planting people in the residence. Eloise immediately thinks of Kenneth. No wonder he knew nothing about minerals, but suddenly wanted to go to the dangerous northern mines to find rhodolite. She doesn't understand. Aikisar has already replaced Kenneth as the family heir. Why is he now targeting people around her? Is his ultimate goal to kill her as well? At this time, Ryan also returns carrying an unconscious man and apologizes that he accidentally knocked the guy out. This terrifies the man watching from the side. He thinks, what's with these 2 maids? Their strength is horrifying. Yin Moxiao orders Ryan to tie the two together. Then she turns to Eloise and asks what she plans to do next. Eloise is momentarily at a loss. Aikisar has been planning for years and she was completely unaware. She curls up in confusion. She doesn't know how many more enemies are hidden in this residence. Although her magical power level isn't low, she has never studied offensive magic. At this point, she probably can't even protect herself. Yin Moxiao pats her shoulder to comfort her. Miss Eloise, it is not the time for discouragement now. I'm still here. Eloise feels warm about her words. Right, Yin Moxiao is still by her side. How can she be timid at a time like this? By the way, what's your magical power level? Yin Moxiao answers frankly, I have absolutely no magical power. Eloise instantly breaks down and almost cries. How is this any different from waiting to die? On the other side, Aikisar learns that 2 of his subordinates failed. He immediately sends out an assassin with magical power. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao looks at the 2 men who failed the assassination. She knows Aikisar will never let this go, so she calls Ryan to prepare for battle. Just as she's about to leave, Eloise stops her. Yin Moxiao, it is too dangerous. You'll die. You should take your maid and leave quickly. I'm the Duke's daughter. Even if Aikisar wants to kill me, it won't be now. Eloise looks at Yin Moxiao, warmth rising in her eyes. She's glad to have met someone besides her mother willing to protect and guide her. If not for their conflicting positions, they could have been good friends. Thank you so much for standing by my side. Yin Moxiao looks at her silently for a moment, then suddenly turns and pulls her into an embrace. Thinking back, ever since crossing into this world, she's always been the one taking care of others. Eloise is the first person in this world to care about her this much. Then she tells Eloise, hugging can relieve tension and anxiety. How is it? Do you feel a bit more relaxed? Then she lets go and turns toward the unknown danger. Moreover, Miss Eloise, did you forget? We're making a deal. I protect you and clear obstacles for you, and you give me proper compensation after everything is done. Your knowledge of minerals and endless wealth are both crucial to me. Let's go. We'll meet those people with magical power. Meanwhile, Duke Tilio's condition deteriorates daily. Once holding power and covering the sky with one hand, he can now only watch helplessly as his family fights among itself. Recalling the past, he once publicly humiliated Aikisar's mother. Bark like a dog, and I'll give you money to save your son. But when she unhesitatingly abandoned her dignity and barked like a dog, he mocked her as someone who could easily throw away her dignity and didn't deserve his charity. With that, he got into his carriage and left. Left behind were only the sickly Aikisar and his tearful mother. Duke Tilio even ordered guards to drive them off the street. Is the current Tilio family infighting something Duke Tilio brought upon himself? Or a grand scheme he laid down back then? Meanwhile, as soon as Yin Moxiao and Ryan step outside, they encounter the assassin with magical power that Aikisar sent to kill them, Finks. After confirming they are the targets, Finks sneers with disdain. I can't believe those 2 wastes lost to you. Yin Moxiao thinks he's here to rescue them and says, if you want to save them, you'll have to defeat us first. But Finks unhesitatingly activates his magical power, speaking arrogantly. You are wrong. I plan to kill you, then go kill those 2 wastes you defeated. Before he finishes speaking, he attacks Yin Moxiao and Ryan with lightning speed. Yin Moxiao reacts quickly. After Ryan infuses magical power into the sword, she swings the blade to counter. In an instant, 2 forces of magical power collide violently. The impact forces Finks to stagger back several steps. This makes him suddenly understand why those 2 servants fell to these women. Taking advantage of his shock, Ryan has already snuck behind him and strikes fiercely. With a loud crash, debris flies everywhere. Just as Yin Moxiao and Ryan suspect the assassin is dead, as the dust settles, they see a purple magical shield protecting the injured assassin. Ryan says through gritted teeth, his magical shield can withstand my attack. His magical power level should be level 4th, same as mine. Before he finishes, magical power surges around Finks, forming dozens of arrows that shoot toward Yin Moxiao at astonishing speed, which truly makes Yin Moxiao's heart tighten. At the critical moment, she swings the sword infused with magical power to block, though his fierce attacks still tear her skirt. All her vital areas are protected. Soon, Yin Moxiao realizes this war of attrition isn't working. Her mind races and suddenly forms a plan. Taking advantage of a gap in the attacks, she takes a deep breath and actually charges straight at Finks. This startles Finks. He doesn't react in time, as Yin Moxiao's fierce attack lands. Accompanied by Finks' painful screams, the outcome of the battle is decided. Finally, Yin Moxiao says disdainfully to the collapsed assassin on the ground, everyone who has lost to me so far shares one thing in common. You all underestimated me from the start. In the end, Finks is carried back to the basement, seeing them return safely. Eloise is very excited and repeatedly asks if Yin Moxiao is hurt. Oh my god, your skirt is torn. What happened? Though Yin Moxiao says it's nothing, she also feels that wearing this tattered skirt is quite inconvenient. Then she turns to look at Finks, who is still howling. Not yet knowing how humiliating things will get, Finks continues roaring, "What are you looking at? Don't think beating me means you can do whatever you want." Yin Moxiao flashes a bright smile and orders Ryan gently, "Help me!" Strip off his clothes. Eloise beside her stares in shock with wide eyes. When Yin Moxiao walks over in the new clothes, Eloise stares even more blankly. So cool, she wants to wear that too. On the other side, Finks, who is forced to wear the dress, continues roaring, "Damn it! Even if I die, I won't reveal a single word." Hearing this, Yin Moxiao directly draws her sword and aims very precisely between his legs. Since you're already wearing a dress, why not just actually become a girl? Though these words are directed at Finks, Ryan on the side is already unconsciously trembling. The threat works immediately. 3 minutes later, Finks reveals everything he knows. Infiltrating the Tilio family started 6 years ago. People have been planted here every year. I entered 3 years ago. The purpose, as you can see, is to help Master Aikisar become head of the family and inherit the title. Kenneth was indeed killed by Aikisar. To avoid suspicion, we faked a mining accident as cover. Nearly 200 slaves who accompanied him were all buried there. Finks suddenly snorts coldly. "Instead of wasting time interrogating me, you should worry about yourselves. Our fight made such a commotion. Master Aikisar has definitely already ordered all the servants in the residence to hunt you down." But Yin Moxiao shows no panic and says she expected this. Her people should be arriving soon anyway. This is the girls' first real combat since training began. The lead girl reminds them, "Don't be reckless. Don't forget what Miss Yin Moxiao told us." Then they change into clothes, suited for action, and secretly infiltrate the Tilio's residence. To ensure Eloise's safe evacuation, Yin Moxiao decides to lure away the servants near the basement with Ryan, creating an opportunity for Eloise to escape. She instructs Eloise to go to the courtyard and meet up with the girls who have infiltrated the residence. After explaining all the details, Yin Moxiao turns and once again heads toward unknown danger, leaving only one line: "From now on, you must be careful." At this moment, Eloise calls out to her, "I'm sorry for being so timid, and thank you." In fact, what Yin Moxiao really wants to hear is Eloise's answer to the question she asked before. "Miss Eloise, have you decided to betray your father and brother, seize power, inherit the title, and become head of the family? But now is clearly not the time to discuss this. It is more urgent to solve the immediate trouble." Whatever Eloise ultimately chooses, Yin Moxiao will stand by her side. Before long, a group of servants frantically chase after them. After luring most of the indoor servants to one location, Yin Moxiao and Ryan stop. Facing encirclement on all sides, can they successfully break through? Meanwhile, Eloise has reached the courtyard. The girls in the distance notice Eloise, but they haven't seen her before and fear she might be an enemy in disguise. So they shout out the code phrase Yin Moxiao set up to test her. "Never gonna give you up!" Eloise is startled by their sudden voices. Then she remembers the code phrase Yin Moxiao told her earlier. She immediately responds, "Never gonna let you down." After successfully meeting up, the girls hand a report to Eloise. It's the result of their investigation over several days, recording a list of all servants who left the Tilio's household starting 17 years ago. Though it's just a sheet of paper filled with names. After Eloise examines it closely, she's shocked. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yin Moxiao and Ryan, who chose continuous hand-to-hand combat to conserve magical power, finally see the support team arrive. The servants feel insulted at the sight. "Damn it, they're underestimating us by bringing a bunch of girls?" 10 minutes later, the servants who were just shouting are now lying scattered all over the ground. Then the girls hand over the intelligence they gathered over these days to Yin Moxiao. Yin Moxiao flips through the report and asks Ryan what he knows about Duchess Tilio. Ryan recalls, "Miss Eloise's mother was the only daughter of Duke Vendeste, one of the 4 dukes at the time. She married the current Duke Tilio at 18, gave birth to her eldest son Kenneth at 19, and had Eloise at 21. Later, at nearly 30, she died from complications during her 3rd childbirth." Yin Moxiao, holding the list, tells Ryan she has some disturbing speculations. Because the investigation shows there were 2 large-scale replacements of servants in the Tilio family. One is what they already know, that Aikisar began planting servants 6 years ago to seize power. The other was 17 years ago. But the Tilio family 17 years ago couldn't possibly be connected to Aikisar. Combined with this list, they can discover that those transferred away 17 years ago were all personal maids the Duchess brought from her family when she married in. In other words, after the Duchess gave birth to Eloise, her personal maids were gradually replaced, until 8 years later when she became pregnant with the 3rd child, the Duchess, who had successfully given birth twice before, ultimately died from difficult childbirth. And the person with the power to replace the Duchess's personal maids was probably only Duke Tilio. Afterward, after dealing with all the servants in the hall, Ryan, who is blushing, awkwardly begs Yin Moxiao, "My lady, I actually want to change back into men's clothing too." Hearing this, Yin Moxiao suddenly stops. Is she going to scold Ryan for not keeping his original promise? Not at all. She just suddenly thinks of a question. "When you first decided to enter the Tilio residence with me, why did you choose to pose as a maid? This isn't the palace. You didn't need to disguise yourself as a woman at all." Ryan is stunned at this and recalls that he really didn't think of this point back then. He suddenly feels a bit wronged. Seeing Ryan actually cry in grievance, Yin Moxiao quickly comforts him. "It's okay. When we encounter the next enemy with magical power, will strip his clothes for you to change into. In the courtyard, Eloise and the girls encounter servants coming to capture Eloise. To protect Eloise's safe evacuation, all the girls decide to stay behind as a rear guard. Only one girl escorts Eloise to a safer location. Time flies. The girls who were once bullied and despised can now protect others. On the other side, sensing danger, Ryan suddenly tackles Yin Moxiao to the ground. The next second, an assassin with magical power crashes through the window. After confirming Yin Moxiao is unharmed, Ryan turns around, holding his head and yelling. Seeing this, Grace puts her hands on her hips proudly. If you're scared, surrender now. For the sake of being women, I'll spare your life. This makes Ryan yell even louder. Why are you a woman? I'm a man. I don't want to wear a dress anymore. High heels are uncomfortable and chest padding is uncomfortable. Why aren't you a man? Otherwise, I could strip your clothes to change into. Hearing this, Yin Moxiao is too embarrassed to even look at Ryan. But Grace thinks Ryan is insulting her, so she unhesitatingly activates her magic, swearing to kill that pervert Ryan. Just the pressure of her magical power makes the entire building tremble. How will Yin Moxiao, who has no magical power, deal with this powerful assassin before her? Meanwhile, Aikisar, who is familiarizing himself with family records, knows very well that the commotion tonight will definitely alarm Duke Tilio. He carefully planned for 6 years, but he never expected that at this final moment, there would be rats interfering. So he orders his subordinate beside him. Advance the plan. Before dawn, kill everyone. In addition, bring Eloise back. At this time, the girls escorting Eloise's evacuation has already been entangled by servants everywhere. Eloise stares blankly as groups of servants rush toward Yin Moxiao's subordinates. She is helpless, not even knowing what to do next. Suddenly, a maid in the corner softly calls out, "My lady!" Eloise looks carefully and sees it's Philae, her mother's maid from when she was alive. As if possessed, she follows Philae into a small pathway. Looking at Philae's back, Eloise recalls that after her mother's death, it was Philae who often stayed by her side, giving her meticulous care. But now, even this servant who watched her grow up, she doesn't know if she should trust her. Why? Why do even you betray the family? But Philae only says she is loyal to Eloise's mother and hopes Eloise will trust her once more. But how can Eloise, in such a desperate situation, dare to trust? After all, the maids who came with her mother were all dealt with by her father after she was born. Given her father's methods, if Philae was truly loyal to her mother, how could she possibly still be alive? Moreover, Aikisar began his plans 6 years ago, so her father's former subordinates have long been eliminated. Seeing that she seems to see through everything, Philae says bluntly, "I do indeed take orders from Master Aikisar." Now, rumors say that as the Empire's noble duke's daughter, Eloise was born with an enviable family background and wealth. Her father is one of the 4 dukes who united with her beautiful and learned mother. They married and vowed to be each other's lifelong love. Soon they had the fruit of their love. Eloise, as the younger daughter, grew up with her brother's affection. Their family lived happily together for many years. Eloise breaks down crying. But all of this is fake. Everything is calculation and conspiracy. There was no love between her parents, only an arranged marriage for family interests. The so-called lifelong love was nothing more than a contract after family negotiations. Her mother was murdered by her father. And for family interests, her father unhesitatingly accepted his illegitimate son to replace Kenneth in inheriting the family. Before she finishes speaking, she suddenly uses magical power to shatter the stone pillar beside her, deciding to end this hypocritical life. It would have been better if I had never been born. At the critical moment, Philae, who just admitted she had joined the enemy, pushes Eloise away without hesitation. Eloise falls to the ground, stunned and confused. Why would Philae save her when she is already betrayed? Philae, crushed by rubble and barely alive, uses her last strength to explain. "I was not a maid the Duchess brought from her family home, so I was not dealt with by the Duke. I'm loyal to the Duchess because back then she saved my life when I was still a slave. And in the week before the Duchess's death, she begged me to stay in the residence no matter what and protect you for her. Even if you feel everything is fake, the Duchess's love for you was definitely real. My lady, she was always comforted by having a daughter like you. The Duchess, who hoped to stay by your side, entrusted this concern to me, who fortunately survived." Philae uses her last breath to raise her hand and gently touch Eloise. "My lady, raise your head. You are the daughter the Duchess was so proud of. This is definitely not your end. On the road ahead, there will definitely be trustworthy people accompanying you. So don't cry, face it bravely, and then walk forward with strength." The next second, Philae peacefully closes her eyes. Memories of her childhood with Philae flash through Eloise's mind. She breaks down in tears. Watching Philae, who cared for her like a mother, fall before her, she doesn't even have time to grieve, because Kenneth catches up to her. "I found you, my lady. Please stop running. Come back with me." Tears fill Eloise's eyes. She turns to look at him, but her gaze gradually turns cold. "I won't run anymore." She then summons her level 5 magical power and creates a magical shield around herself. "I'm going to see my father, not be caught before Aikisar by you." But her magical power doesn't intimidate Kenneth. Instead, it draws his mocking laughter. You possess such talent in vain, yet you don't even know a single offensive spell. What a waste of your abilities. It turns out Duchess also possesses magical power. He approaches Eloise while sneering, "You think you're safe hiding behind that shield?" He then reaches straight for Eloise. The next second, the magical shield formed by level 5 magical power shatters before him as easily as paper. Eloise is grabbed by the throat, and her magical power rapidly disperses. Unwillingness surges through her heart. Is this really the end? But I haven't accomplished anything yet. At that critical moment, a blade wrapped in golden magical power slashes through the air. The newcomer is Kozel. He was drawn here by the clash of their magical power. This time, Eloise immediately recognizes him as the maid who came with Yin Moxiao. However, she wonders why all the maids around Yin Moxiao are so skilled in combat. Following Kozel is Eloise's personal maid, Meyer. Kozel stands before Duchess, sword in hand, and warns Meyer over his shoulder. "Don't forget the payment you promised me," Meyer replies calmly. "Of course. I've sworn to the god of Tejas that I will fulfill the deal once it's done." Seeing this, Kozel turns back to deal with Duchess. Although Duchess was just injured by the surprise attack, he remains confident. "You new maids are all quite arrogant. Where does your confidence to defeat me come from?" Hearing this, Kozel curses internally, "Damn it, I'm a man, and a top-tier royal guard at that. If I can't even handle small fry like you, I might as well go home and farm." His expression then turns serious as he shifts into a fighting stance. "Enough talk. Let me finish you off quickly. I need to find Miss Rika." Duchess continues to provoke. "Come on, cute little maid. Let me see what you've got." This angers Kozel so much he finally curses, "Shut up." Seeing the two clash, Meyer prepares to take Eloise somewhere safe to hide for a while. But Eloise shakes her head. "There is no safe place. Only when I truly possess power can I create my own safe place." Meyer stares in astonishment. The young lady whose life was always arranged for her, who only knew how to cry, now actively faces danger. She realizes that Eloise is no longer the timid duke's daughter she once was. "My duty is to protect you. Wherever you wish to go, I will follow." Eloise says she wants to see her father, but before that, she needs to change into appropriate attire. Moments later, they return to the room. On the vanity sits a silver-gray wooden box. Inside is the dagger she and Luna forged together from minerals long ago. With this dagger that is opposed and supported, she will end the family that caused her tragedy for the sake of profit. Afterward, she applies exquisite makeup, pins up her hair in the style her mother loved most, and changes into an elegant gown, looking dignified and graceful. Yet a mocking smile appears at the corner of her mouth. "Father, seeing me like this, will you remember the mother you murdered?" At this moment, in the Duke's bedroom, Aikisar recalls his childhood. As a child, he was seriously ill due to poverty and had no money for medicine, nearly dying. In the end, his mother somehow obtained medicine that saved his life. His mother explained that she met someone claiming to be a nobleman's servant who gave her enough money, supposedly because the noble had a moment of compassion and couldn't bear to see his mother crying every day. That money was enough to buy the best medicine until he fully recovered. But when he recovered and wanted to express his gratitude, he could never find out which noble had saved him. After that, he dedicated himself to planning how to make Duke Tilio, his so-called father, die in pain and regret. Facing his threats, Duke Tilio shows no fear. Instead, he sincerely thanks Aikisar for appearing before him, because, to be precise, Aikisar's appearance proves that his plan was perfect. The one who inherits the Tilio title will ultimately not carry the blood of the Vendeste family. He slowly reveals the past. Over 10 years ago, to join the ranks of the 4 dukes of the empire, he used schemes to marry the only daughter of Duke Vendeste. But at that time, they signed a sacred contract that could not be violated. He cannot break the contract, or he will suffer backlash and die. The contract states that he can only marry Texel von Vendeste in this life, and the future heir to the imperial dukedom must be Texel's offspring. That contract was his humiliation. However, he has already made Duke Vendeste pay the price. Since Duke Vendeste died of illness, he hoped his wife would give birth to a daughter. Once the daughter marries into the royal family, her son will be of pure Tilio blood. The Tilio family is ultimately under my control. Hearing this, Aikisar just thinks he is truly a scumbag. Seeing him still so arrogant on the brink of death, Aikisar slides a dagger from his sleeve, holds it to his throat, and speaks of Kenneth's death. "My magical blade wounded his arm. He fled like a dog, and I finally shot through his heart from behind. Even in death, he didn't believe you never loved him, nor that I was his brother. How pitiful. From birth, he was destined to be abandoned." Aikisar questions Duke Tilio, "Don't you feel even a bit of guilt or unease?" Duke Tilio smiles wickedly after hearing this. "Greenhouse saplings can never withstand the cold. Only hatred can drive people forward. That's why I had your mother killed back then. I made you who you are today." Learning that his mother died at his hands, Aikisar angrily raises the dagger and stabs it viciously into his thigh. "Sorry, I almost slit your throat. I will make you die more painfully than I suffered." Hearing this, Duke Tilio isn't angry but instead says approvingly, "You are the most satisfying of all my illegitimate sons." Unfortunately, once Eloise becomes the 3rd princess, her son will inherit the title. The Tilio family will then enter its most glorious era. And you, my dear son, are merely a pawn in my plan. At this moment, a maid interrupts their conversation and reports, Miss Eloise requests an audience. Aikisar assumes Duchess successfully captured her, but hearing the maid say, Eloise came of her own accord, he finds it interesting and orders the maid to bring Eloise to the parlor to wait. At this time, Duke Tilio reminds him not to forget their contract. You must not obstruct Eloise's marriage into the royal family in any way, or you will suffer the contract's backlash and die. If you dare kill her, the second prince won't spare you either. Aikisar is of course very aware of this, but from the moment he decided on revenge, he never thought of a way out. Meanwhile, Yin Moxiao is fighting Grace, but Grace has already seen through her moves. Grace turns and blocks her attack. What a shame for such a good blade. A clear shattering sound follows and cracks appear in the sword. As Yin Moxiao stands stunned, Ryan, who was supposed to be continuously supplying her with magical power from a distance, rushes forward recklessly to protect her. But his attack is also easily deflected by Grace, and she grabs his arm. Just like destroying the sword, Grace violently pours magical power into his arm. The shattering and intense pain in his arm nearly makes Ryan faint. Seeing him injured, Yin Moxiao rushes forward and catches him. Ryan reassures her not to worry about him, that he just temporarily can't use his right arm. Yin Moxiao blames herself for not being strong enough, which led to his injury. She then sets Ryan and the broken sword aside, picks up another sword, and directly faces Grace. Grace also activates her magical power, ready to fight. To preserve the other sword, Yin Moxiao sheathes it and quickly dodges the attacks Grace launches. She carefully observes and records the trajectory of each of her strikes. Soon, Yin Moxiao sees through her chaotic and flawed boxing technique. Unable to land a hit for so long, Grace is even starting to get impatient. Seeing this, Yin Moxiao asks with interest, "Would you be interested in learning boxing from me? Combined with your magical power, you'd definitely be much stronger than you are now." Seeing Grace scoff at this, Yin Moxiao decides to demonstrate. Facing her high kick, Yin Moxiao leans back, and in an instant with her hands on the ground, uses the momentum to kick toward Grace's chin. The movement is smooth and fluid. After spinning twice in the air, she lands steadily. Grace hasn't recovered from the hit yet. Yin Moxiao rushes forward again, while continuing to persuade her. Following Aikisar has no future. That guy's only purpose is revenge. So how about becoming my companion? As soon as she finishes speaking, her flying kick already hits Grace. She then clenches her right fist and strikes hard at her face. If you follow Aikisar, after tonight you'll have nowhere to go. Grace won't easily believe her words. Just as she's about to activate her magical power, Yin Moxiao has already closed in and delivers another punch. Grace falls to the ground, covering her cheek, embarrassed and angry. "You actually stopped my spell." At this moment, Yin Moxiao extends her hand. "After tonight, the Empire will have its first Duchess. This country will change because of it. Don't you want to witness it with me?" They then regroup with Kozel. Seeing Rika, Kozel immediately becomes excited, but knowing that Rika is injured, he softly comforts him while smoothly taking his hand, trying to display his charm. "Once we return to the palace, I'll have the best physician treat you." At this moment, Grace leans close to Yin Moxiao and whispers, "Does that maid not know he's a man?" Yin Moxiao replies in a low voice, "To be honest, that maid is also a man." Grace stares in shock at the two men holding hands. Kozel reports to Yin Moxiao that Eloise has voluntarily gone to the main house to see Duke Tilio. Yin Moxiao immediately gathers those who can still move and rushes to the main house to meet up with Eloise. Meanwhile, Aikisar admires how Yin Moxiao could bring about such a change in the timid Eloise. He then stands and orders the servants to lock up Eloise. The door immediately opens, and a group of servants swarm in. In an instant, they surround Eloise. Facing these servants without magical power, Eloise transfers her own magical power to Meyer, who's hidden among them, to defeat them. Meyer picks up a dagger. "I'm honored to be able to use your magical power. I'm happy to risk my life to protect you." In the blink of an eye, the servants fall one after another. Aikisar coldly questions Meyer. "Have you gone mad, Meyer? Have you forgotten you also serve the second prince?" Eloise is shocked, unable to believe Aikisar is actually connected to the second prince. Meyer remains calm. "My task is to protect Miss Eloise from harm. I was simply following my master's orders just now." Aikisar understands that Meyer has switched sides, but he remains composed. The Imperial Knights average only level 4 magical power, and most nobles only awaken to level 2 or 3. Yet you, a sheltered young lady, were born with level 5 magical power. So many envy your talent. But I've never been jealous, because my magical power level is 6. While they're stunned, a terrifyingly powerful magical power explodes before them. Meyer reacts quickly and throws herself to shield Eloise. As the smoke clears, Meyer, who took the full brunt of that terrifying force with her body, coughs up blood, still murmuring for Eloise to run. The next second, Aikisar grabs Meyer by the collar and says casually to Eloise on the ground, "Don't be afraid, I can't kill you, because if I kill you, I'll suffer the contract's backlash. But if you're tortured to the point of taking your own life, I won't be breaking the contract, will I? After all, the relatives who loved you and the close friend who shared your interests are all gone, and your hobby of studying minerals will soon come to an end. Now, Even the last maid who wanted to protect you will die miserably before your eyes. Eloise sternly warns Aikisar to let go of Meyer. Aikisar acts as if he didn't hear and violently pours magical power into Meyer's arm. The raging powerful force causes Meyer unbearable pain, watching Meyer being tortured before her eyes while she herself is powerless. Eloise screams with all her might. She doesn't want to see anyone else die because of her. In her rage, she suddenly rises and her magical power explodes. Although she has never studied offensive magic, the high concentration of magical power she unleashes at this moment even startles Aikisar. Eloise's mind rapidly recalls the principles of the weapons those girls used. First, she must gather magical power, then focus, and finally compress and release the condensed magical power. A magical beam shoots out rapidly and hits Aikisar directly, taking advantage of his stunned moment. Eloise quickly rushes toward Meyer, catches her, and instantly creates a magical shield. Aikisar originally thought her magical shield would be fragile. He raises his hand to break it, but doesn't succeed. Her magical shield is stronger than he thought. It turns out Eloise concentrated all her magical power at the point where he touched. At this moment, Meyer, having recovered slightly, tells Eloise her true identity. The one I truly serve is not the second prince. In the palace, besides the second prince and third prince's factions, there's a third force. If you're unwilling to choose them, you might consider this third force. Moreover, Miss Yin Moxiao and the third prince may seem to be on the same side, but they may not share the same goals. At this stage, she appears to be a trustworthy partner. To cooperate with her might be a good choice. Just as Meyer is about to reveal the identity of the third force, Eloise interrupts these words that sound like a final testament. Who gave you permission to die? I don't care who you originally served. Now, you are my maid. Meyer smiles slightly and asks Eloise, my lady, do you remember Wendy? She was actually my best friend, sent to carry out the task of monitoring and protecting you. In the end, she was ruthlessly killed by the second prince. Thank you for giving her a proper burial. Selfishly taking over her unfinished task is the most rebellious yet most unregretful thing in my insignificant life. I'm just sorry I can't accompany you to the end. Immediately after, the magical shield finally collapses under Aikisar's continuous attacks. For the first time, Eloise shouts with all her strength, Yin Moxiao! A loud crash erupts and the window immediately shatters. A familiar figure leaps in from outside the window. Yin Moxiao, who crashed through the window, once again extends an invitation to Eloise. Are you determined to betray your family, seize power yourself, and become the head of the family? Even if you fail, will you have no regrets about cooperating with me? This time, Eloise agrees without hesitation. Afterward, Yin Moxiao takes over dealing with Aikisar and tells Eloise to go do what she needs to do now. Eloise comes alone before Duke Tilio and demands the scepter that symbolizes the Tilio family's authority. After her father refuses, she pulls out the dagger from her hair and personally kills her father, who murdered her mother and indirectly caused her brother's death. The dying Duke Tilio looks at his daughter before him and says, "You will regret this. You will definitely regret this." Hearing her say she will never regret this decision, he seems to see his former self. In the end, he coughs up blood, clutches his pierced chest, and actually laughs loudly. He never expected that the child most like him would be the daughter he never truly acknowledged. When Eloise questions whether he ever felt even a bit of guilt or unease about killing her mother, although he stubbornly answers that he has no regrets, his tears stream down violently. In that marriage that began for profit, his wife had truly tried to love him. In the end, Eloise accomplishes what Aikisar failed to achieve, making her father die in pain and regret. On the other side, Aikisar has already witnessed that sword that can channel magical power. To prevent Yin Moxiao from borrowing magical power, he first knocks out Grace, and Ryan's magical power is already depleted. So Yin Moxiao switches the target of supplying the magical power to Kozel, who possesses level 5 magical power.